You mute, Chris. There you
go. Screen stayed on. That's happened a couple of times. Not sure why, but anyway, never mind. Yeah, Manchester United beat us and our rollercoaster season on a trough. After being on the up after the big win against Everton, now back at the bottom. So maybe we'll win the next game, carry on like that. And it seems to be something that's forever happening in our season. And I have to talk about it on Mondays. Luckily, though, I don't have to talk about it that much today because I've got one Spurs fan, one Man United fan, so they can do it for me, and I just have to be referee. Ed, Spurs fan, you know him from Shelfside Spurs and been on him numerous times. How are you doing, Rez?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Welcome anytime. Just quickly, Shelfside Spurs, where can people find that?
You can find us Thursday between around about 7:30. Usually we kick off. And yeah, it's a bit mad and crazy, and we've had some important guests on. We had Steve Perryman a couple of weeks ago, so go out and check our Steve Perryman video. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent. If you wanted to find that, it's in the description. There's his Twitter handle and the link to Shelfside Spurs. Check that out. And Ben, United fan, how you doing, Belly?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Be on good behaviour, please. We're upset here.
always.
But yeah, so let's start. I'll start with you, Ben, because I've got a feeling you'll want to talk about this. In terms of players, there's world class, then there's Ronaldo and Messi as well. I didn't think we played too bad in that game. We'll come to what Rez thought about that in a bit. I didn't think we played too bad, certainly in that first half, 9 shots. De Gea didn't really do much. I can't remember Lloris doing too much either. But when you've got Ronaldo, you're going to have a chance at scoring. He's had a fairly poor season by his standards, I guess, but that was what you expect from Ronaldo, was it?
Yeah, well, I think when he came back, I thought we might have had a few more, a bit like that. Obviously, he's had a bit of criticism. I think I think he's even been called our problem, which is it's a nice problem to have. But it's yeah, I mean, Ronaldo on his day is a match winner, isn't he? And like, I think he's got that just complete will to win as well that we've had in the past, but not many players have. And I think he pretty much won that game on his own. I thought there was a few good performances from United players, but when it comes to it, he really dug us out. I mean, and he has done it pretty much all season. I mean, maybe not so much in the league, but you look at the Champions League. The games, I mean, we would be out. So it's, I mean, we'd probably be favourites for the Europa at the moment. But it's, that's what we got. And as soon as we go ahead, we are definitely a better team going ahead.
We are as well. I think it was a game of, it was quite an odd game, wasn't it? I thought it could be a cure for insomnia. It was anything but that. But
yeah, it's one of those things as well. I think I saw some crazy stat today that United winning at half time have gone 300 and something games, 21 games not losing after we're winning at half time.
Well, you haven't lost in the Premier League when you've been winning at half time, apparently.
Yeah, it's insane. So I felt quite good about it at half time, and then I think, but the answer to the question, I think Ronaldo is obviously our big time player. When we need him, he does seem to step up.
Just quickly, thank you to everybody for watching as well. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. We're 194 subscribers at the moment. Please get me to 200. We've just suffered a loss. It would be a nice present to recover the loss from. Yeah, absolutely. And Rez, your thoughts on the game? Like I said, I thought we played quite well. We'll come to the poor finishing and final ball in a bit, but Kane, son, I think. I still think world class, but I think Ronaldo, Messi are on a different level. I don't think you can call Messi and Ronaldo world class. I think they're higher than that. And
yeah, I mean, we didn't play horrendously, and in actual fact, Man United minus Ronaldo were pretty damn poor. They have good individual players, but as a team, they're really bad at the moment. There's no cohesion. There's no real sense of team play. And so a lot of people have turned around and said, oh, well, this is what happens when you've got an average squad. And it's like, yeah, our squad is average, as in Spurs, but that's not the reason we lost on Saturday. We lost on Saturday because one of the greatest players who has ever played the game had an immense performance, right? Ronaldo won that game for Man United. Man United, the rest of them didn't really do much. You had Jadon Sancho, who people sort of say is the future of English football. To me, he looked more like the future of black cab driving, right?
Didn't he set up the second one?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's the assist. He got a couple of assists, but it was almost like it was the exception to what he was doing. Going up against Matt Doherty, who isn't the best sort of right back you'll hope to find. And you would, given what Doherty has done or not done for Spurs over the last few years, you would have expected him to have been skinned consistently, and he wasn't. The matchup was fairly even. Sancho got a couple of sort of balls in, got the better of him a couple of times, but it wasn't a sort of David and Goliath situation there. Man United were awful, just Ronaldo, and it was individual errors that led to their goals rather than poor team play.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. A couple of comments from Simply Ace. How you doing, buddy? Ronaldo is the definition of a winner, unlike our team full of mostly losers. Like Conte said, trying is not enough. We need to get results. But Ben, what did you think of your performance? Ignore Ronaldo. Obviously, he was the deciding factor. Yeah. But in terms of your performance, I thought Fred played quite well in terms of breaking stuff up and he kind of moved stuff forward. But I thought first half, if it carries on, there's only going to be one winner, because I thought, not that we were all over you, we didn't really trouble De Gea that much, but we carved you open a few times. Yeah. And better finishing, better final pass, then we would have been in, and De Gea would have been called upon. I can't really remember Lloris having to make too many saves. He obviously had to pull it out of his net 3 times, and the third goal came from him saving Ronaldo's shot for corner. But yeah,
I think to me,
I thought the second half was far more even. We had 9 shots at goal in the first half, and I think we ended the game with 10 or 11 maybe. Obviously, our second goal doesn't count as one of those because it was an own goal. But yeah, what did you think of your performance overall, ignoring Ronaldo?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you. I thought Fred was pretty good. I mean, I think it's weird when Fred plays like well. Like it's not that he doesn't. He's not like a 6 out of 10 guy or whatever, 7 out of 10. But that's his best performance in the United shirt. I thought he did really well, and we were missing. I think for us anyway. This is how crazy it sounds, but we were obviously missing McTominay. And when I saw the teams, I did think, because I think he's been our best midfielder this year, McTominay. And then obviously Bruno was missing as well. So I was a little, I thought we're missing a few sort of key players in there. And I thought Fred did well. I thought, but again, I'm not saying Fred had a 10 out of 10. I think it's more the sort of shock that he looked like an 8 out of 10. So it's
we have that with pretty much all of our players, barring 2. So,
but I mean, I just thought that both teams looked absolutely terrified every time the other one attacked. I felt that there was 3 at the back for you lot. I don't really think they marked many players. I think even the first goal, I think you see Ronaldo drops off, Dyer's too far off.
We'll come to that later. I've got some photos for the goals, that is one of them.
And the same with us. I was a little bit surprised you took Kulusevski off. Have I said that right?
Yeah.
I thought he was more of a threat than Son. I think Son is a wonderful, wonderful player, and I think but I don't think first half I thought he was getting in lots of little nice positions. Son, sort of that sort of left hand side middle, and I think Ragnick changed it. He changed Matic and Fred round their sides, and I think that helped in the second half. But it wasn't a great performance. I think we did enough. Not that again Lloris wasn't making save after save either It was one of those games where I think both teams were quite good up until like the final third. I think we conceded a lot of space to you wide. I think your fullbacks, your wing backs got quite high up quite often in decent positions, I thought, but I didn't really ever feel like we were gonna, it was always going to have goals in it. I thought as soon as the start, they were in the one where Davies got in as well. Like Davies got in early, didn't he, and scored, but he was off. And
I mean that was offside. It was fairly conclusive. I think it was about half a yard offside.
So what I mean is,
but it was good passing movement there, and carved you open quite easily in the end. Even
I think that's when your third centre back stepped in, it caused us problems. I think quite often.
The thing you got to bear in mind is that game. The weird thing is that even though it was a 5-goal game, it was actually short on quality, incredibly short on quality. Both sides, their creation was minimal. Yeah, our goals. One was a penalty. Your goals. One was a worldie. One was a decent move. And the other was a set piece, that was not a classic game of football. And you're right, there was this feeling that both sides were terrified of each other. I mean, there was a period sort of midway through the first half where it looked like there was just absolutely no organisation on the pitch from either side. It was like football farce. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was Man United against Spurs. I mean, if it had been no disrespect to them, Norwich against Newcastle, Norwich against Burnley, desperate to avoid relegation, I could understand it. But this was players, teams going for the top 4. Listen, we cannot. As a Spurs fan, the thing I'll say is this: we cannot point to that game as indicative of anything at Spurs right now. It's not indicative of any problems with the manager. It's not indicative of any problems with the players, apart from Son, I would say, but I'm sure we'll come to him. It was they worked hard. And Conte said it. I see improvements, and he was right. There was much more cohesion on the Spurs side of things than we've seen previously. It really just was Ronaldo decided to turn up.
Yeah, and I think he hasn't done it that much either.
No,
in the league.
Do you think the being left out of City, being battered by City, helped you there and got him super angry, Ben? And well, I'm in the team now, so I'm going to show why I should have been in that team and why I'd have beaten Man City. Well, maybe not that, but why I should have been playing against Man City. Do you think he was super angry and then that helped him?
Maybe. I think when you give Ronaldo a sniff of it as well, like I think, like I said, he was coming off, he was getting space. Those are the games that he thrives on. I think, and I think as well, the last 20 minutes against City was probably the lowest point I think I've had as a United fan. I honestly, like it was. I mean that. It reminded me of like when
one must have been fairly low.
It was a humiliation. It was a humiliation by City. Yeah. It really was a case of we're not your nosy neighbours anymore. Okay, this is what we are, and this is what you are.
Yeah. It reminded me of when it reminded me of the dads turn up at the school to play the kids, but they take it seriously.
Yeah,
it was, and they're like, let's keep the ball, so it had to get better than that. I think we were, but I mean, even the goal, like Rez says that that we scored, that was a decent one. It was just a straight single ball. It was a straight ball. I mean, you at this level to be beaten by a straight ball by Nemanja Matic. I mean that is.
I'd agree. But the thing that again, it wasn't that caused the goal that caused us to concede. It was basically it really was one tiny little slip up. So what was happening is that Reguilon was tracking back. Then our centre back stepped forward to try and spring the offside trap. He was going towards the goal and had to reverse direction. Managed it, but was like 30 centimeters off. Playing Sancho 30 centimeters onside because he had to do that change of direction. And even that is hard to sort of say it's a defensive error because the centre backs.
That's
did
just
what they were supposed to do, and
communication,
he
isn't
did
it?
what-
Knowing when your buddy's going to be moving forward,
No,
knowing when your
exactly.
line should be
Yeah,
forward. And
exactly.
Region hasn't played.
Hasn't played.
Well,
Exactly.
Session's been in for
Yeah.
6 games, isn't he?
Yeah, and so that's the problem. Again, so many people have been moaning or having a go at the squad for how they played, and it's like, seriously, like for instance, Matt Doherty had a couple of good games recently, and everyone was saying, okay, well, that's good. Some people have taken it too far. It's been tongue in cheek with the sort of Mara Doherty, for instance. Right? It's been tongue in cheek. It's not been serious, but he's had a couple of good games. It's been nice to see. And then when we lose, everyone's saying, "Oh, everyone's been bigging up Matt Doherty and saying he's the future." It's like, no one said that, first of all, and second of all, just because we lost doesn't mean he played badly. He played fine. He played all right. There wasn't any glaring errors that we have seen from him up until recently. He performed as expected. There was nothing outstanding about any of the Spurs players, but there was nothing egregiously bad about them either. It was average.
It just always feels to me with Spurs that Kane and Son are on it, then you're in massive trouble. I think if they're not right there at it, then against in the big games, it's a struggle for Spurs.
We get carried. We get carried. Spurs get carried by them. I mean,
yeah.
Our top scorers are Son and Kane. Do you know who? Would you like to know who the third top scorer is?
I think Spurs? I saw it. Is it own goal? Is it own goal?
Owen goals. Yes, that's right. Yeah, yes. Right. I mean, that says it all. Okay,
yeah,
they really do carry us.
Speaking of Kane, Spurfict here as how you doing, buddy? Kane wasn't having a great game. Really showed the negligence of the board. Not having a real quality option from the bench to make a difference was key. We don't really need to go into that. Everyone knows the issue with the board.
I don't think it was a lack of sort of another striker that did for us on Saturday. The general point I 100% agree with, but on Saturday it wasn't that did for us. It was we needed a bit more creativity, would have been a little bit more sharpness. It wasn't enough to cope with Ronaldo. To be honest, I think if Ronaldo wasn't playing,
we'd have won.
We probably would have won. I feel, given the way that Man U played, given the way they have been playing, given the way that we played, I honestly thought that we could have won that if Ronaldo hadn't played that day and hadn't been. It's a concatenation of circumstances, basically.
Yeah, and Simply Ace has said, to be fair, everyone turns up against us, from the top to bottom players.
Everyone loves playing against Spurs at the moment.
Yeah, Dr. Tottenham turn up, everyone loves it. But there's Kane and Son. God knows what Son had on his feet. Slippers, presumably, quite literally. He was the only player slipping over, and he did it about 4 times. So I'm not sure what was happening there. But I mean, like Ben said, if they play well, we play well. Kane, if he drops deep and is allowed to dictate play, like we saw against Everton, Leeds, we kill teams. But yeah, I mean, Son, he needs a rest for me.
You see,
he needs a rest for me. He plays every game of the season. He travels for career games all over the place, however many times a year. He needs a rest, but like Spurfic said, we don't have that option off the bench. I mean, you got Morva, but possibly not the same. But we do have now, barring a couple where the rearranged games will happen. In the main, we do have one game per week rather than one game a weekend, one game on a Wednesday, and so on. Barring obviously
this week notwithstanding.
Exactly.
This week we're playing Wednesday, Saturday. So Wednesday,
that's what
Sunday.
I meant. In 2 weeks' time. That's what I meant.
I mean, the thing about it is that with Sonny, I mean, Kane seems to be getting back or has got back to the player that he was last season. He's sort of that verve has returned, which has been missing for a large part of this season. Son, on the other hand, whereas at the beginning of the season he was, full of piss and vinegar. Let's put it that way. He seems to have lost it. And it's not him. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he has not been playing as well as we've seen him play before. And Man United was, I mean, a player slipping over doesn't mean he's a bad player, just means his studs aren't right.
He's
But
wearing ballet shoes or something like that rather than football boots.
But the thing about Sonny is that he's been off the boil. He is, of the way I've likened it is that he is like a Ferrari engine that is in desperate need of maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, would you agree with this from Simply Ace? He says, we're burning out, son. Why not give him a rest for the Brighton match? Bring in Bergwijn or he'll get injured again. I think you've got to give him a rest for a week or two.
Absolutely, I agree.
I don't think he will.
I mean, well, do you know what I think? Listen, one thing that we know is that a lot of the time managers will try and play a player into form again. You know, it might be a confidence issue. He might not be happy. It might be physical. It might be mental. We don't know because we're not party to it. So, you know, I'm not going to turn around and say, why is Son playing again? It's because Conte knows more than I do. Yeah. But I would like to see him rested. I would like to see him given a small period away so that he can just decompress, because it seems to be mental. He's not playing with a smile on his face at the moment, which you know, when Son plays, you can see he's enjoying himself. Yeah. You know, the exemplar of that was that Puskás goal that he scored against Burnley. I mean, that is Heung-min Son. Not what we saw against Man United on Saturday, and not what we've seen a couple of times this season, where he just seems to be just a bit flat. Yeah. He's still been delivering, but again, it's like that Ferrari engine. If you push the accelerator, it's going to give you buzz, but it needs. That doesn't mean it's working perfectly. It's still working badly, even though it's performing. And that's the argument that's been going around the bloody Spurs from back and fucking forth. No, his stats show he's good. No, but the eye test show he's bad. It's fucking both. Yeah.
Well, I think what I'd do, he needs a rest. And Kane coming deep is absolutely fine if you've got someone further on, which we seem to have in the games where people attack us. You've got Son and Kulusevski stay forward on wide, and then one of them drifts in the middle if Kane comes deep. I'd play Scarlett. I know he's only 17, 18 or whatever, but top four for me is done now. We ain't getting top four. We'll come to top four a bit later because at least one of our teams is in the shout. So we'll come to that later. But I'd play Scarlett. Scarlett will stay up front, so you've got that up front player anyway, and Kane can go and do whatever he wants, a kind of a free roll kind of thing, and try something like that. Although, like Simply Ace says, I'd feel a bit sorry for Bergwijn because I do quite like Bergwijn. He's done okay, but yeah. And Simply Ace has said again, Conte said everyone needs to be put under pressure for their place in the team, and there are far too many players that are comfortable. That comes from the lack of replacements. But
I don't think Sonny is one of them.
No,
Sonny to me has never come across as one that's complacent in his place in the team.
Yeah, I think he's just right. Needs a rest.
I agree with Ace though. Yeah, but do you know what? At the same time, right now, that squad picks itself. That team picks itself, right? Because if you go through that team, who are you going to play? Look at the wing backs. You've got Reggie or Sessegnon. Hobson's choice. Doherty or fucking Emerson. Right?
Is that his first name?
That is now his official first name. Right? His name is fucking Emerson. All right. I mean, I
are you a fan of him or not? I can't really tell.
Oh, I love Emerson. I love him. I have pictures. You can't see them. They're all on that side of the room. It's like a shrine. No, the thing is, I don't like beating on a player that tries to work. Right. If they work hard, that's the only thing I'm going to judge them on in terms of what I demand of them. Hi, old Artisan. But Emerson is fucking awful, right? He may, as I've been saying, he might turn out to one day be the greatest right back to ever grace a football field, but he ain't that now, okay? And so it really, right wing back, who'd you have, Doherty or Emerson? In the middle, your midfield. If, let's say, for instance, we don't have Bentancur and
said he's worse than Doherty and he's rubbish, but
right, exactly. Let's say, for instance, we don't have Bentancur and Skip, and Højbjerg. We've got to play Winks and Harvey White. Right? How is that a choice? Skips might be out for the whole season, so we're stuck.
Yeah.
Up front, when you've got Bergwijn, Mora, Son, Kulusevski, which two do you pick? You pick Son and Kulusevski. And we don't have a striker to take the place of Kane. So you play the team picks itself, right? You know, who are we going to have at centre back? Sanchez? Really? You know, Bellini in goal? That's the thing. Right now, it has to be that 11. And so they will.
And it can be now, can't it, with injuries withstanding because of one game each week. But
getting back to what Ace said about the players being put under pressure. Yeah, absolutely. They should. Every single player should be always having one eye over their shoulder as to, you know, I've got to keep my place in the team. But right now, we're probably as far from that position as it's possible to be. And all of that, you know, the problems that the cause of that is elsewhere. It's not Conte, it's not the players. The blame, in inverted commas, lies elsewhere.
Yeah, and Ben, we talked about Son, who's obviously kind of a form has dipped. For me, needs a vest. Your two kind of players in that position who played on Saturday. You got Sancho, who, regardless of how you think he did, he set up a goal. And you said to me at the City game, him and McTominay were the only two who looked like they were trying in that second half. And then Rashford, and he's really kind of fallen down, which what he did with the government and everything, I think everyone can say that they think Marcus Rashford is probably a really, really nice bloke. But in terms of football, it's kind of gone downhill a bit. And there was a moment in, I think the second half, I think it was, where he's got Ben Davies one-on-one, and he's turned back and gone backwards, which Marcus Rashford, when he's 60, could beat Ben Davies for pace now. And that, for me, is a confidence thing. He's been playing very well. I mean, you'll know this better than me, but from my point of view, he doesn't get in the team that much. And if he does, it's kind of bit parts. This was an opportunity for him to kind of not announce himself again, but put himself in Ragnick's plans to say, that's my position. What did you think of... what did you think of his performance, and why do you think he's kind of gone downhill in terms of football form?
Well, I think first of all, every single player that we've got that was English has struggled this year. Came back from the World Cup. Every single one of them. Shaw hasn't been to the standard he was last season. Where I actually think last season Shaw was probably the best left back in the league. Right? I think this season Rashford had surgery at the start of the year too, and I think he started the year unfit. Right. But he started okay, and he scored a few important goals. The West Ham one in the last minute. He has chipped in, and I think if you go and look at the goal, like, again going back to Rez's point about stats, you can frame an argument on stats, you know, quite easily. And I think if you went and looked at Jadon Sancho and Rashford, I might be wrong, but I would say that goals and assists, Rashford would be better per minutes played than Sancho. But as with what you were saying about Kane, the trajectory is it going up. So the current opinion on it, as where Rashford is on the way down, and so you got Sancho going up and Rashford going down, and Elanga coming in and scoring some important goals as well. So I don't know about Rashford. I'm of the optimistic side that I think actually it is a dip in form. I mean, players have it. I think it does occur. The one thing I would say is we bought Jadon Sancho to be a right winger, and he's playing on the left. Every player that turns up at our club as a winger, like the Beyonce song, they go to the left, right? You know, and we end up with you know, like I'm pretty sure at the start of the season, Rashford would have thought, right, left wing's mine. I'm gonna have Shaw bombing past me. I'd have Bruno and Pogba. The right hand side I'd have Sancho. Maybe at the start of the season he thought Greenwood too, but you know, and then you know, and so you know, we had on paper anyway, it looked like incredible options. But I agree with Rez. Similar thing with the Son thing. I think Rashford, it didn't start as well as Son, obviously, but has sort of gone in the same trajectory as that way. But what I would say about just reverting back to Son is resting him is a twofold thing, I think, because if you rest Kane and Son, if Conte rests Kane and Son, all those other players think, Jesus, you know, if he rests them, he'll rest me. You know, and again, I think when Rashford gets rested, I mean, I think Ragnick has been excellent in the way he's dealt with our players. Like you've had Cavani have a bit of piss and moan. We've had Rashford, we had Lingard, and he's just basically said the same to all of them. If you want to go, go. You know, and I think some of them he's got a reaction out of them. People like Alanga have come in and been the, you know, and got that out of it. I don't know. All I'm saying with Rashford is I feel like he's got more to give this season. I still think he will give more. And I think I actually would be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But on the flip side of it, he can't be moaning about not playing when he's playing badly. I don't understand this about players, right? They must rewatch the film of the games in the film room when they go to training. He can't possibly think, yeah, I had a stormer there. I don't know what this manager's seeing, right? He can't possibly think that, right? So you know, Elanga's come in. He scored a goal in Europe. He scored a couple of goals, I think, at Burnley, and a couple of, you know, away from home, big goals for us. He got, you know, Rashford knows what it's like to burst
scored one, didn't he?
Yeah. So you know, Rashford, I think at the moment, with obviously with no Greenwood, I think the starting 11 for United more often than not will be Rashford, Sancho, and Ronaldo, with Bruno in the hole. But what I would say is about that is they all want to play on the left. Even Alanga wants to play on the left. That's where he came through. They all want to play that side. There's a balance problem at United all over the shop. You could balance everywhere is wrong, you know. And I think that's why I think he's started to throw his toys out the pram a bit, because I think at the start of the season he thought that left-hand side was his. Sancho was coming to sort the right. We had Ronaldo, Greenwood was his heir up top. They were going to be the three, and I think it hasn't worked out the way. And I think he has sulked a little bit, and he's got to get back to it. The only way, the same with Son, the only way you can put form right eventually is to play better. You can have a rest, but when you're on the pitch, you've got to play better.
Well, to be honest, I think Man United's problem has been exacerbated by Ronaldo.
Maybe.
I think that's the dressing room that is horribly fractured, and they know that their current manager, is not going to be their manager next season.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we expect our players, whoever they play for, I think, to not act like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably now got to the point where it's unrealistic. I think player power has now got to the point where if you're there for 6 months, you're just going to be you're throwing darts over your shoulder. You know, it's a despicable thing to do. It's not exclusive to Man United. It's everywhere that you see it. Again, coming back to what Ace said about complacency, it's sort of like that, but not quite the same with Man United. But they know that right now their efforts won't mean anything come June. You know,
yeah, I agree. I think as well, but Ragnick, obviously, the idea of him going upstairs
to be the consultant, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Be a consultant. I think he knows the ones already. I think he's a lot maligned. But you look at people like McTominay. If he's fit, Ragnick plays him because he is. You know, he may not have the quality of a Keane.
You can rely on him to do a job.
My God, he works hard and he's honest forever, and he'll tackle. And you know, my favourite performance of any Manchester United player this season was McTominay against Leeds. Right,
this is why I love Skip.
Yeah,
because Skip comes in and he gives from minute 0 to minute 90 plus extra time. He gives everything.
Yeah.
I've never seen him, not once have I seen him not do something full-bloodedly.
Yeah. It's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, isn't it? But they get it. I know people say it, and it seems like a really crass fan thing to say, you know. But they do. Some of them,
it's because they've come through the youth system, so they get the club, they get the ethos of the club and everything like that, and they want to complete the journey and get into the first team. They've been in the reserve team, the squad, the bench. Now they're in the first team, and they want to stay there. But that was exactly the same as Kane when he broke in. You know, he had Adebayor, Soldado, who were both internationals. Kane was a nobody at that point, just been on loan to championship clubs. But
that was
came
what
through the youth
Fergie did.
system.
That was what Fergie did better than I think. No one really mentions this much. He made players get it. Like, I mean, you listen like Evra, right? Vidic. These players, they had no real allegiance. They weren't born in, up the road or whatever. But they, even now you hear like Patrice Evra. I mean, he's everywhere talking about United still. It's all he cares. He's been at Juventus and other clubs after Monaco before that. Just talks about United.
We had something similar when on the stream that I'm sort of primarily on. As I say, we had Steve Perryman on, and he was talking about Bill Nicholson, and how it was his club. He wasn't the owner, but it was his club, and that is the same for Man United. Man United were, and you know what? They still are Ferguson's club.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Yeah,
and that's the issue. And that is the biggest issue that Man United have right now, is that after Ferguson left, instead of taking the rough, and this is not me necessarily advocating for David Moyes, I was saying that whoever came in to replace Ferguson, they should have stuck with that person regardless of what was happening. Because Moyes probably got Ferguson's ethos. Out of all the managers you've had since Ferguson left, he probably got it the most, even more than Solskjaer, I think, because Solskjaer, in my view, didn't have the brains for it. Moyes does. Man United should have stuck with it. They should have realized that you cannot transition from someone, an icon of Ferguson's stature, to a new manager without pain. And that's what they should have done. And the reasons that you've got problems now, the reasons why the sort of bringing back of Ronaldo was even posited, was because the sort of your hierarchy is desperately trying to keep things from tipping too much.
I think United. I think like obviously the Glazes and stuff, but I think all in all we spend a lot of money. I don't think that's a problem. I just think, like you say, with Moyes. I mean, the one thing I'd say about Moyes was he lost the dressing room real quick, like in record time.
But you know what? But that's the thing. That's where the club should have acted better. They should have backed their manager, like we did with Poch. When Poch came in, he had a lot of troublemakers. What's his name? Kabul was another one. Loads of them. All of them advocating. And it's one of the few things that I give sort of Levy credit for, is that he didn't allow that to sort of undermine his manager. Right? He backed his manager. Poch basically said, you know what? Fuck the lot of you. I'm going to bring in young, hungry players that will work to me. And he had the backing of the club to do that. That's what they should have done with Moyes. Even though you still had some really big name players at the time, and you still have big name players. Man United are a big club. But that's what the club should have done. And I reckon that a lot of the pain that you've suffered as a Man United fan, relatively for what you've had in the past, would have been avoided over the last few years.
Yeah, I think
that had happened.
The only thing I would say on Moyes, right, is that he went in and he literally sacked Ferguson's all of background team,
which was
I never understood that. As long as I could remember, he wanted to put a stamp on it. I get it, but he, I don't want to talk too much about Man United.
Mistakes on both sides. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not advocating Moyes as this great manager, but it was, the club made mistakes that it shouldn't have made.
Absolutely. And I think with Ragnick now, I think he is in that stage now where he is, he's doing that, what you just said about Poch. If you want to go. I don't think he's not begging anyone. And I like that. But I don't know. I don't talk about United too much on the Spurs podcast. But I agree. I agree with you to a degree. I'm not so sure Moyes ever really had it, if I'm honest. But then, then you go to Van Gaal and Jose, who did have trophies. They didn't have it. I mean, Van Gaal. I'm not joking. Van Gaal was the closest I ever came to not supporting a football team anymore.
But you know what? It's not the individual necessarily. I mean, the thing about it is that Man United should have. I know that Moyes was Ferguson's handpick. That was Ferguson's error.
Yeah.
I think ultimately what should have happened is that they shouldn't have given him quite so much scope to pick who was going to take over for him. It should have been much more consultative, I think. And then whoever it happened to be, if it hadn't been Moyes, it should have been a backing. I mean, Man United are known for backing their managers.
Yeah.
No one. Well, I'm not going to talk about the Glazers, but certainly up until that point, I mean, they stuck with Ferguson, even though the fan base was screeching for him to be sacked back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
But they stuck with him, and look what it brought. Obviously, football's different now, but for a club like Man United, you can't lurch from a manager to a manager. This is one of the big ships in football, and they need to be handled differently. It's one of the complaints I've got again about our hierarchy is that we should act like a big club, and we don't. When we're not Watford, like with the fucking Pozzos who sack the manager because he slurps his tea wrongly. Man United and Spurs should act differently, and I think that until they really get it right, which they might do with Ragnick, having him there as the consultant, as the sort of, because he's not a manager, he's a director of football.
No, I agree with that. I think his benefit will be from next season. I think a real benefit will be, but I like the fact that he's been there to feel out some of them. I think he knows. There's rotten ones there. I think he's not scared to tell them.
The thing that's funny is that those rotten apples probably don't take him seriously. They don't. They probably haven't registered that this guy will actually hold the power of their careers in his hands next season, and so they're just acting up.
I agree. I agree. I think there's a lot of players like that there. I think United just need to get back to the model of players proving themselves at United. That's always what we did. Your Van Nistelrooys, your Coles. We signed these players. They were good players. Don't get me wrong, but they hadn't done it at the very top level. We need to get back to that, I think. So we will see. But
a couple of comments before we move on. Simply Ace, Skipper's been a massive miss. Been our best player this season. Since he got injured, form has faded badly. I think he is a huge miss. Will come onto our midfield.
You've said that to me every time I've spoke to you, Chris. In fairness, you've said that you think he's your biggest. I mean, obviously Kane and Son. I get the quality part, but there's more than just quality, isn't there, in a football team? Some you've got to put hard yards in as well. So.
And we'll get on to the 2 penalty appeals now. And this is where we come to technology time. It's not much technology. It's a couple of photos. But Ben, I know you disagree with.
That's
well, it is for me, I guess. Yeah, it is for me, I guess. But but I know you disagree with it, Ben. Either both of them aren't penalties, or both of them are. Let's show the pictures here. Wonderful editing there.
I'm glad you've circled it so I can see it.
Yeah, well, people might not be able to see, but I mean, his arm is away from his body, but it is facing down, whereas your penalty, it's kind of up in the air. So I have no idea, I'll be honest with you, what the handball rules are anymore. No. All I know is if the hand hits your hand and it's in an unnatural angle, it's a penalty. And I would imagine they've looked at it. That's an unnatural angle because it's kind of away from his body, but pointing away from his body, where that's kind of pointing down towards his legs. But
what Dyer is doing, and if you see him throughout the match, because he was the one who got fucked with that Newcastle one. Do you remember?
Andy Carroll heading against his hand, wasn't it?
Right. So since then, if you watch Dyer, whenever the ball's looking in a dangerous area, he puts his arms behind his back, right? Because he does not want to get fucked by a cunt pardon my French, like Peter Banks again, right? And so he plays like that. And that was him. If you watch, if you actually had a clip of it, you'd see that's him basically reaching for the ball while his hands are behind his back to avoid handball. For that, you can say, that's fair, that it's not handball. Plus, the distance between Ronaldo and Dyer at that point makes it very difficult for him to be able to say that his hands were placed into an.
But Ronaldo kicks that ball into the ground, doesn't he? It doesn't hit Gerton. He strike him straight. I think Kulusevski. I can't even say his name. Kulusevski. I think he hits the ball harder at Tellez, And I think there's as much time to be.
I think Kulusevski there is going for the cross. It was right by the edge of your penalty. I mean, it was in the penalty area that he crossed from. You know,
the picture there isn't very good in terms of how far away he was from him. To be fair,
it's a little harsh. I will say it's a little bit harsh because Telles is running, right? I will say that, but you know, his arm moved as well.
And it's also when you go to block, when you go to put a leg out and block, it's impossible almost to do it with your hand by your side.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing. But I think I was with another United fan at the time, and when it hit Dyer's arm, he went mental. And I'll be honest with you, I said to him straight away, that's not a pen. Because
I agree with you. Yeah, I felt it was fortunate that it was given. I can see the justification for giving it, and I can see the justification for not giving it. What I didn't like, what really pissed me off more than that, or would have pissed me off, is the fact that later in the game, what's his face? Who was the guy who came on? Not Dallo. Is it Dallo? Yeah. Anyway, Lindelof. That's right. Lindelof came on, and he was basically marking Reggie, Sergio Reguilon. He comes up from behind. He basically tackles Reguilon. Reguilon goes over, right? And the thing says it wasn't a foul. So if it wasn't a foul, the ball was knocked straight back behind behind the goal line, right? So if that was a fair challenge, then it's a corner, right?
You mean he's got to get it, or it's a foul type thing? Yeah. I
Or
understand what you're saying.
He fouled Sergio Reguilon because the ball was kicked by Reguilon into touch, and that should have been a free kick. It's that kind of officiating that really pisses me off. I know VAR has been.
It's VAR only look at penalties, red cards, goals, don't they? They don't look at anything that can cause the goal or
absolutely
things like that. And that's where I don't understand that. I mean, they've got people watching the game in the studio. You know, Gary Neville can say, and whoever it was with him, I think that's a foul after the first replay. Surely they get that on the VAR.
This is the problem. This is the biggest problem in English football, apart from shitty fucking owners like Abramovich and the Al Nahyan and the Saudi PIF. But outside of that, officiating is the next biggest thing.
That's what I don't get about the officiating, though. I've got a half brother who lives in Germany, and he's like, everyone loves VAR. It's fine. It works.
That's German efficiency.
But I don't understand. I don't. It's literally watching a video and making a decision. I mean, I understand that we're here arguing about, differences, and I understand there is some subjective, you can't always get everything 100%. But I mean, I got one of my mates, one of my best mates, and he hates VR like so much that he's like, I can't even go to a game anymore. It ruins it, right? So, but he watches it in the Champions League and the World Cups and stuff, and he's like, seems all right here. Don't understand why it's so bad. I still haven't got an answer for that. I haven't got an answer for why it's And what I'd love, VAR, is to hear what they're saying. That's what I would love. That's the next step. It has to happen because every time that ref walks to the side monitor, you're thinking, oh, because you're just thinking, he's going to take 30 seconds looking at it, 30 seconds walking back. Let's just get the game going and just give the decision because he wouldn't go there otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, look, I agree. At the time when I saw the two handballs, I think if Telles' one had been given as a handball and the Dyer one hadn't have happened, I feel like there would have been less. But I feel like at the time, even from my point of view, I was like, because I was so sure that Dyer's wasn't. And then that was I was so sure that Telles wasn't. So to me, but then like Chris says, maybe it's just a lack of understanding about what the actual handball rule even is. I mean, I'm not even sure I get it anymore.
And the thing is, they don't know it. And so because they don't know it, they can't, there's no consistency from referee to referee to referee. And so the fans think to themselves, what are the rules? Because we can't make a judgment because we've got no frame of reference.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Go and read the rule book.
Also, as well, there was the two other things. Have you got more to come on to decisions-wise, Chris, or is that it?
No, the other pictures are terrible defending for your two goals.
Okay, so the other two decisions that I thought were quite iffy as well. I thought Dallo could have been sent off. Mm-hmm. I thought he went really high on Regillion, I think.
I can't remember the last time though a high foot resulted in a red card. I mean, let's face it. The Brighton keeper can decapitate a player almost and not get a red card.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what you've
maybe.
got unless you get some samurai sword from back in the dressing room and chop someone's head off. That's
honestly,
probably yellow. That's probably an orange card.
That was right. Wigan. That was.
Can I just digress very quickly? I randomly, I do apologize. I saw this video on Twitter where there's this. It's in the Thai league, I think it was, where some player got dispossessed by another player, and he got so pissed off he went up to the player that dispossessed him and gave him what I think it's called a Muay Thai elbow, like this in his face. Not only was the player sent off, his club terminated his contract the moment he did that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
technique on the elbow.
But I don't know if you saw Sanchez, the Brighton goalkeeper's one against Diaz. I would imagine if Diaz didn't score that, or that was like Klinsmann and Bosnich, that would have been a red card because he scored. It's like, okay, you can have the goal.
Weak chin, mate. Weak chin.
But I mean,
he can't take a punch.
Yeah.
But compared to that,
Merseyside now.
Yeah, compared to that one though, Darlow's was nowhere near as violent. So I can't remember the last time a high boot or something like that got
right?
Red card.
It wouldn't have shocked me. it wouldn't have shocked me. I was right. I was close to the old Twig and Berries as well. That would have been like proper, And the other one was the own goal because Maguire played the ball to stop it getting to Romero. I'm not even sure if Romero was offside. It was close because he might have been behind the ball. But again, if he's not there, I don't know that rule. I don't know that because Maguire had one at Burnley where he basically stood still and a player went round the back and we scored, and they gave it as offside or something because he was interfering. I don't know the rules. Honestly, I don't know it. I don't know them.
It is madness.
What I would say is you won the game, so stop moaning and stop being so bloody good.
No, you know what? Listen, regardless of result, everyone has the right to criticize, lambast, and swear at the referees in our game, right? Yeah. And on a serious note, this is what pisses me off about VAR, and I can understand why people hate it so much. It's because they've got that it's so beautifully crafted get out clause, because it's there to fix clear and obvious errors. Now, somebody give me an objective definition of what constitutes a clear and obvious error. That's the problem. We treat referees in this country, certainly, I don't know about anywhere else, but certainly in this country, we treat them as if they are untouchable. Yeah. And it has to stop.
They need to come out and explain their decisions, like players and managers do. They need to come out and do that so they know that
at the end of every match, one of the interviews has to be with the referee.
It never will be.
Not of course, until we put enough pressure on them to actually do something about it. But it's got to be call out PGMOL, call out the referees, and basically stop treating them like gods. They're not.
I do feel like a quite a good example of a clear and obvious error is Luis Diaz unconscious. I
mean, do you know what they should do? They should give VAR calls. Basically, it should be like in tennis, right? Where a player gets a number of calls per set or per game or whatever. For the what's it called? The line calls. Give it to the managers, right?
Yeah. Me and you discussed this though a little while ago, Ben, didn't we? And you said managers would save them up, waste time when it's 1-0 with 5 minutes left.
That's fine. That's their problem. That's their problem. But if they concede a goal that might have been offside and they want to save up so they can waste time, that's their problem.
I think the problem is that, like you said, the referee decisions are so bad. Like you'd probably start these players who know whether a ball's come off them for a throw in or something. They'd go, "I'll challenge," and there could be 35 VAR calls of game because the refs are getting it so wrong.
Point. You only get a limited number.
But even if you get it right,
it doesn't matter.
Right. Okay. Fine.
You get 3 or 4 or 5 or however many and a half, and they're for you to use as you like, right?
Right. Okay. I see what
And
you're
this is
saying.
the thing. This will then basically start putting referees under pressure to get things right as well, right? Because if a manager calls for a VAR check, say a referee's made a decision, the manager questions it, and it shows that the referee has got it wrong, that is greater pressure on them to up their game. So they're not being shown up by someone else.
Yeah.
They don't care about the fans. The fans don't have a voice. A manager does. If a manager does a VAR call during a game and it's shown to be wrong, he can then talk about that in his interview afterwards and say,
No, I
I
agree.
challenged it, right? I showed that it was wrong.
I know we're hijacking this, Chris, but another thing that I'd love to see about is I would love it. You know, when substitutions happen and the goalkeepers the balls go out for goal kicks or corners, not throw-ins, but goal kicks. I would love the clock to stop. I would like it to stop.
It's funny you say that, Ben. Actually, you should have been speaking to me rather than Chris. IFAB did a proposal recently, a few years back, that say what they wanted to do was to change the timings in football.
Yeah.
And what they would do is that each half wouldn't be 45 minutes, it'd be 30 minutes. Right. But whatever happens where the ball is out of play, be it a substitution, be it a throw-in, be it a goal kick, be it anything, preparing for a free kick, anything where the ball is out of play, the clock stops.
Yeah.
Because they did an analysis and found that in average, on every half, the ball is only in play for about half an hour.
Yeah. Well, it's also as well. I've read today that they're thinking about going back to 5 subs, which I don't really feel that strongly either way about it. I can see people, but all I can think of is like Watford at Old Trafford making 5 subs after the 89th minute.
Yeah.
And just waiting and then taking 6 minutes each substitute to get off the pitch.
But you know what? The thing is that they still find ways around it. Do you know what Southampton do? Next time Southampton play, watch. On the 70th minute, around the 70th minute, they will always have an injury.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. Believe it is. They do it. They have if a tackle goes on a Southampton player around the 70th mark, the player will stay down just so Hasenhüttl can give them some extra instructions while the player's recovering. Watch them. They do it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, but I do wish they would do something about the goal kicks and the subs, because I don't understand. I don't care if a player takes 10 minutes to walk off a football pitch, as long as you get the time back. But never get the time back, do you? No. You never do. I don't understand. Anyway, sorry, Chris, mate. But it drives me nuts. That's my pet peeve. Yeah.
Well, going from terrible refereeing decisions to terrible defending again. In particular, the 2 goals. The first 2 goals. The third goal, it was poor defending, but Ronaldo wanted it more. And we didn't criticise Kyle Walker for the third goal that Kane scored against Man City. And again, that was Kane wanted it more. And generally, 9 times out of 10, if you've got a run on the player who stands still, you're going to get the header there because you're going to be taller. But the first goal, I mean, this is one of the greatest players, possibly the greatest player to have ever played the game. And you're leaving a jumbo jet between him.
Look at your 2 centre mids as well.
Yeah,
look where they are.
We'll come to Bentancur in a little bit later because I thought he was poor. But I mean, Dyer is the one there who and like you said, Vez, there I've only just noticed he's got his hands behind his back, which you mentioned earlier. But he's got to close him down there, isn't he? I mean, at least make him do something. Don't give him a free pot shot. I know Lloris can see it, but Ronaldo's too good. He's going to put it somewhere where Lloris can't.
You've also got to bear in mind the defensive line as well, because you've got Fred, and I don't know who the number 20 is on what's it called? Right, is it Dalot? They've probably stretched in order to basically get them to track back a little.
If Dyer goes forward, Fred or whoever's next to him is free. Højbjerg picks him up, and you've got Son picking up Dalot.
Yeah, I agree, but it's in the heat of the moment. It's not as easy to make those decisions. What I would say the fault lies there is actually with Benton, or the contributing factor to the defensive fault that Dyer makes. I'm not forgiving him. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done that. I think the fact that they didn't provide adequate shielding for Ronaldo in that build-up to that strike was a key contributing factor. Yeah. Had they done that, had they provided better shielding, I don't think Dyer would have been in that position, because he is expecting the shot. That's why his hands are behind his back. He's expecting that shot to come in, right? At that point, he's got to the point where it's like, I can't do anything. I've just got to make sure I don't concede a free kick on the edge of the area. My goalkeeper's behind me. My centre-back pairings are tracking their runners. I'm just
he might think 9 times out of 10 you ain't scoring from there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a worldie.
I still think he's got to close him down at least.
I agree.
Him down.
In an ideal world.
But you've got to remember, Ronaldo's come really deep there. He has come deep to get that ball. And whether or not, I think you have to make a decision with a back three, whether you have an aggressor who comes out with that striker or you keep your line. But what I would say is, what is Dyer doing? It looks like he's doing the smooth criminal thing.
Didn't Michael Jackson bend backwards there? So he's doing that. He's doing that. So he's doing that wrong as well.
Yeah.
It's to stop him from conceding a thing because, as I say, he got screwed. He got screwed in the arse by Peter Banks against Newcastle, and since then his hands are always behind his back when the ball is near our area. Watch him.
Peter Banks has hurt him deep. Yeah,
I give him credit for that. I do give him credit for that. He tried to change his game to stop his team from conceding.
Sanchez does it as well.
Sanchez
does it as well. If you watch him, he crosses his hands behind his back. And then the second goal, which, I mean, this annoyed me anyway, but it annoyed me. It takes me longer to sneeze than it took for Manchester United to regain the lead after we got the penalty. And apologies, it's a terrible arrow. This is paint, and I couldn't turn the arrow around. But I was slightly annoyed. I mean, we've gone through how it got through to Sancho anyway in the offside, but it was a slow ball across the box. And for me, I mean, this is maybe controversial because he's been superb for us on the main. Lloris has to come out for that.
Yes, he does.
He may not get it, but at least he gives Ronaldo a chance. Ronaldo could be blind and he'd score that goal with an open goal like that. And if you look at it when it finishes, I think Ronaldo's on the 6-yard line, something like that, which he needs to come out for that. And I think that's an error from him. And it's like a penalty. It's like a penalty with Ronaldo 6 yards further forward.
Yeah, this speaks to Spurs' weak mentality. And again, it's that whole Dyer thing, getting screwed by Peter Banks. The number of times that Lloris has been penalised for when he's come out to claim the ball, even though he's been eccentric a couple of times. I think it's that. I think it's there's always that fear. Oh, I'm going to get things wrong. Oh, I'm going to do this wrong. Oh, I'm going to get penalised for that. That is rampant in our squad, and it's a weak mentality. A winner doesn't give a shit. A winner will take a mistake on the chin and not let it affect his game. I think Gary Mabbott tells a story. He says that when he's happy when he makes a mistake because he's still got 999 more to go, right? before things have gone wrong. And that's the thing, it doesn't matter if a player makes a mistake. We are slightly to blame because every tiny little error is highlighted and sort of turned into a big deal, even though every player makes a mistake in every game they play. There is no such thing as a perfect game. And I would defy anyone to show me one. And so that was the only goal that, I'm sorry to say this, Ben, that is the only goal that Man United earned. Really.
We don't earn many.
Yeah, in that game, not thing. In that game was the only game where you can turn around and say
the only game in there, the only goal in their history that you've earned.
History that they've ever earned. Everyone has been corrupt except that one. No,
they've all had Al Howard Webb. That's what they all say, isn't it?
Yes, everyone has been a bad decision. No. That on that game on Saturday, that was the one that you turn around and said, well, yeah. I mean, you can't say they didn't deserve that goal. Right, they deserved the other goals as well. To be fair, I mean, a worldie from Ronaldo and a set piece that's earned as well. But that one was poor. That was poor play by Spurs.
Yeah, I do. Like I said earlier, the straight ball. You cannot be caught out of a straight ball at this level with 3 at the back. I mean, it's just criminal.
But it happens. It's not just Spurs. Other teams do bad things like that. Man United have done bad things like that. Every team does it occasionally. And it just happened to be that we had that, plus that world-class strike, plus a desperately hungry player determined to show everyone on the set piece. And that's what did for us. It wasn't a poor performance. No. Our squad, as I say, is average. absolutely, barring one or two players. It needs improvement. I don't deny it at all. But that wasn't the reason we lost on Saturday.
And Simply Ace has said here, to be fair, our back three is jelly, so it's understandable the mistakes they make. On a side note, what the hell has happened to Lloris? Is he drink driving again?
No, listen, players make mistakes. Lloris has been immense as well.
The mistakes have crept in. That wasn't a big glaring one. I just think he should. I mean, it's very likely, isn't it, that if he does come forward, Ronaldo sees it, dinks it over him, and it's a goal anyway. But at least you've made Ronaldo do something.
Absolutely.
And I just thought the ball coming over, it was at an angle. It wasn't dead straight to Ronaldo, dead set in line with Sancho. It was further forward for him to run onto. I think he just had to come out for that. But
I think what the problem at Spurs is that we're so right now, the fan base's mentality itself is also very, very inflamed. You know, it's ready to sort of to explode. Yeah, it's not toxicity. The toxicity is separate from that. It's also it's a symptom of the same inflammation, if you like. You know when you get a bit of inflammation or something, you get like a boil or something that isn't right on your body, you touch it, it's fucking painful, right? It's a tiny little thing, but you touch just the tiniest little contact and you'd want to scream with the pain. We're like that at the moment. And so the loss, because it's a loss, it's not because of anything else. Because we lost, we explode. But in actual fact, had everything else been a lot better, we probably would have taken that on the chin and said, yeah, well, we lucked out. They got the rub of the green. But right now, and the opposition team getting the rub of the green or getting some circumstance that is almost out of our control, and everything is terrible. There are terrible things at Spurs, but that result is not going to. I lost no sleep over that. I didn't lie awake that night.
It was one of those games. I think you said it earlier. It was two quite poor teams, wasn't it? And it was just almost like which defense could concede the least. That's kind of how it felt, And like you said, Ronaldo just had one of his days where Messi and Ronaldo do that, don't they? They have these days where they just win games on their own, and that was one of those games,
Against the Norwich, against even some of the better clubs like a Villa or something like that. They don't have, with no disrespect, they don't have the quality that Ronaldo has. No. So which Norwich player is going to score that first goal for them? Which Villa player? Maybe Coutinho, but it wasn't us playing badly.
It wasn't a Middlesbrough game, was it? Where it was absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, exactly.
We created chances. We looked dangerous. We looked like we could win another day.
I think we could both move on from Middlesbrough performances, guys.
That's a shared pain between us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but listen, again, look at Man United against Middlesbrough. Look at Spurs against Middlesbrough. That was bad performance. That was them not deserving to lose. I can't. Man United, certainly for Spurs, we deserve to lose against Middlesbrough because we didn't try, right? We thought we'd had that game, and Middlesbrough said, "Do you know what? Fuck you. Okay, we'll show you," and they did, right? And we were the architects of our own destruction. Spurs on Saturday were not the architects of their own destruction.
No, and I'll come to you on this one, Ben. I know you want to talk about this. And originally, when we scored the second goal, I loved Romero's reaction because it showed heart. It showed I'm passionate about it. But it was disrespectful. It was a bit petulant, and he's got his just comeuppance at the end with the fact that it was Ronaldo who kind of did he push him out the way or move him out the way? I think in
fairness, Romero's job was to block Ronaldo and then go with someone else, wasn't it? I don't think I think Doherty actually ended up closest to Ronaldo.
He beat Doherty in the air. That's who was there for the header. But Doherty tried to go for the header, but like we said earlier, he's at a standing. Ronaldo's run from wherever he's run from. So and Ronaldo's brilliant in the air. He's like Michael Jordan, hangs in the air for about 5 minutes. But Romero's attitude, the petulance there, I loved it at the time. I was cheering the goal and saw that, and fired up for this. He's fired up for this, but players remember.
It's one of those ones.
Players remember that, in the game, and concentrate on your own defending rather than someone else's poor defending. Whether it was poor defending by Maguire, that's maybe a bit harsh. It's one of those. if I don't do anything, he's got to tap in, then I'm relying on VAR, which
I actually thought Maguire did quite well
or
against
try and do
Kane.
something, and I've just shinned it or whatever he's done.
He's got to go for it. He's got to go for it, Maguire. If he doesn't go for it, it's a tap-in. So
in terms of Romero, I know you were happy about it at the end.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw your tweets, but
look, it's like one of those things. Everyone's got players in their own team who other teams don't like, but like you're I think, and that's the sort of thing that players do. But what I would say is, right, you do it, you can't lose. You just look stupid. I mean it's not necessarily, it doesn't make him a bad player or an idiot or a horrible bloke. It's just in that one moment that you don't know. I'm not saying he did, but you don't know. Ronaldo saw that and thought, right. You just don't know. You don't need to give anyone any encouragement like that,
No.
And I think, if Romero goes on and if Spurs go on and win it, he's fired up. It's great, but if you lose it, you just look a little silly. I think. I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't. If one of my players was shouted in another player's face and then we lost, I know the United fan base would give that player jip. I just because. I mean, players get jip at United sometimes when we score an equalising goal and they don't go get the ball and put it back on the penalty on the to score. It's like, you just scored a goal and you're not doing it right. So I think it is what it is, isn't it? I have to be honest. In the heat of the moment, I did love that he was involved in the goal. I did, but as sort of cooler heads prevail as they do, think it don't matter that much really. It's just another goal, isn't it?
I quite like it, and I'm still happy that he did it. Because we need a shithouse in that team. We're too fucking nice. We're too nice, right? I love Romero's attitude. I love his rashness. I know it will cause us problems, but I love that fire-blooded type. We need more of that.
Eric Bailly's available.
Yeah, okay.
I think his middle name is Rash.
It's not. It's not the only criteria I look for, though. Ben. Still with the ball is also helpful. But no, listen, I won't lambast him. I'm happy he did it. I want to see him do it more because we need players that wind up opposition players. Okay, we need a replacement for Lamella. Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, Lamella's the shithouse, and we lost him.
I mean,
right?
I get what you're saying. Simply Ace has said, I don't like any of our players winding up the opposition as they always come back to haunt us. Romero's a fool for doing that. I agree with you. I agree with you, Vez, but then I agree with you, Ben. You can't lose, and you certainly can't be involved in the losing goal.
And that's to come up. Listen, if you want to do that, you know that the price is that you might get humiliated by it later, so that balances it out. Right?
Yeah.
It's not something that if you do it, you're automatically going to get an advantage, right? It might come back to bite you on the arse, but that's the risk you take. But I would much rather have a player that winds up the opposition because that's part of football, right? Winding up. I mean, we talk about Romero screaming in Maguire's face. My God, some of the stories the old style footballers used to tell about what they got up to with each other. There was a story that Steve Perryman told us where he was playing against Leeds. This was proper 70s Leeds, bear in mind, right?
Dirty Leeds.
This was Billy Bremner, right? Leeds. And Steve Perryman, who was playing for right back for Spurs at the time, he went in on Bremner, right? Hard. Really hard. Okay, you didn't do that in those days because Leeds would basically mince you if you tried that. And apparently nobody said anything to Steve Perryman after he'd done this. This was quite early on in the game, right? And it turned into a proper ding dong between him, Billy Bremner, I think it might have been Peter Lorimer, all throughout the game, right? And then afterwards in the dressing room, Steve Perryman's fellow Spurs player saying, "I can't believe you did that, Steve." And he turned around and said, "Well, why didn't you say something? Like, don't do that to Billy Bremner because you'll pay the price." And it was a proper ding dong all match. He came away bruised from it, but he gave as good as he got. Compared to that, Romero going up to Maguire and going in his face is small.
I'll never
potato.
forget, like my first sort of footballing hero was Brian Robson, and I always remember the story about Giggs when he broke into the team, and he was playing left wing, and some guy said to him, like, "I'm going to break your legs today, young Ryan." Yeah, and Giggs went over to Robbo and went, "You said he's going to break my legs." He goes, "Oh, did he now? You play centre midfield for 20 minutes." So Giggs went in, Robson went left wing, and he went back about 5 minutes later. Went, "You'll be all right now, son."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's just it. It's so there's no this sort of. I'm not saying it's oversensitive, but it is sort of almost on the verge of being oversensitive. Listen, it's a full-blooded sport in which people can hurt each other, and they don't do it deliberately. It's not polite. It's not a snooker game, where everything's hushed and quiet and respectful. It's football. It's full-blooded, and it's supposed to be played that way.
I saw a Spurs fan on Twitter put as a picture of him shouting at Maguire, just up in the game still, but as it was going on, and he's put the Argentinian Robbie Savage.
Hardly. Please.
Which I thought was Savage, equally funny and harsh all at the same time.
Robbie Savage is probably the most ill-named footballer ever, because it was Savage by name, completely unsavage by nature. He was such a pansy, he was so soft, crying at every contact, and this is the thing, Romero takes it as well, and he's not saying I'm gonna shout at you when it's thing. It's like, come at me, bro. I don't care.
Romero's not going in afterwards thinking, "Oh God, I wish I hadn't shouted at him."
Yeah, exactly. Next time I'll shout at him, but more.
Yeah,
right.
He's not thinking that. He's thinking, "Oh, I can't believe we lost that bloody game." Yeah, that's what he's thinking, isn't it? So
and I already loved him. I thought it was great. I love having him in the team. I don't mind the rashness. I love that full-bloodedness that he plays with. The same with Skip. And if he wants to do that, and if he wants to wind up the opposition, which is part of football, I'm happy for one of our players, two of our players, even half of our players to do it, because we're so nice. We're so polite and, can we play football now? Let's have some fun together. No, go in there, batter them and win.
Yeah, we're the same. We're the same now. We're a couple of exceptions. We're the same. We got no grit anymore.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of midfielders, Skip, I think we're pretty much not going to be seeing Skip until next season.
Yeah.
And Bentancur is learning fast. And what's he learning? He's learning in England, you do not get the space on the ball that you get in Italy. I thought he had a really poor first 15 minutes.
I think so.
But what I really liked is very similar to Skip's debut against City in the 1-0 win. He carried on. He kept looking for the ball. And then he played really well for the first half. And then he kind of happened again in the second half, where he's learning, I think, you don't get the space to turn as much. If you've got your back to goal and you turn, there's someone in front of you generally there. Whereas in Italy, you probably get an extra touch there as soon as you've turned around. But he's still a good player. Obviously, Kulusevski, there's out of the two players, has obviously hit the ground running more. But Bentancur,
ironically. Do you remember when after the first game, everyone was creaming their pants over Bentancur and dismissing Kulusevski, and now it's completely reversed.
Bentancur is learning that, and he is probably going to be playing every game until the end of the season, unless Skip makes a miraculous recovery or he, touchwood, gets injured himself.
Yeah.
So he should learn that, shouldn't he? And he's got some good touches and does try and play forward, or
he's got a great,
contrary to what Tim Sherwood says, but
he's got a great ability to pick a progressive pass. Yeah, I know, definitely. That's his first name now as well.
He just has to learn quickly to, if you're playing with 3 touches, you play with 2. If you're playing with 2, you play with 1. And
he's got the eye for a decent pass. He's not a sideways backwards passer. He did a little bit against Man United because of that not understanding that he doesn't have as much time. So he is just learning to play while constantly under pressure, which is the hallmark of the Premier League. No player. And you know what? One of our problems as a squad is the fact that we don't play well under pressure. you put this Spurs squad in, Serie A, and we'd do all right, because there's not as much pressing. It's not as quite as in your face, as intense. We've got to get out of that. We've got to start playing with more verve and more pace, which we've started to, and we did against Man United. I felt almost to the point where it got to that farcical point where everyone was all over the bloody pitch. But I think, as you say, he's just got to learn to do things a bit faster. The thing that Kulusevski has, I think the reason that Kulusevski has seemed to settle in a lot better is because I think, this is conjecture, but this is what I think. I think with Kulusevski, he plays the game up here. He's got a great footballing brain. So it doesn't matter how fast the game is playing. He's already ahead. And so he can skip past his man. He can pick out a pass because he's already seen it before he executes it, which is an unusual trait it's not a trait that every footballer has. That's why I think Kulusevski's done a lot better, is because he has got the brain to play Premier League football, like Sheringham, for instance. What made Sheringham great?
When I've seen him as well, he's got that lovely kind of like fluid movement to him. He's always. I know it's difficult for like top players to be perpetual movement, but he does seem that way. It's different angles of runs, and he can go down the line and cross it. He can come inside. He's got a bit of. You don't know where he's going. I think that is a big plus for him.
It also helps as well the way that we play on the counter attack. When he does get the ball, he's always facing forward. There's no having to turn round.
Well, I was going to say about Bentancur as well. The formation you play, I think, is interesting for central midfield players like Bentancur and like Højbjerg, because if you get those wing backs high and those two wider sort of strikers can come inside, it gives them more balls to play forward. If your wing backs can't get ahead of those two midfield players or remarkably ahead, there really isn't many places for them to go centrally. So that's a big part of, I think he'll be learning that as well from Juventus, where probably, I'm guessing 15, 20 times a year, Juventus will dominate the game probably. And, there's only really what those top three teams ahead of them, isn't there? And I think they'll get their fullbacks high and he'll have lots of options. The game, and that's what you guys did really well against City, is you got those, I think Sessegnon actually playing against City, wasn't it? But you got him high. And you got, when you could, and those central midfield players, which, all due respect to Højbjerg, he's not known for he's not Paul Scholes. He's not a wonder, he's a good player. But
he did play some really good cross-field passes in that game to Doherty, who Doherty had quite a lot of joy, certainly in the first 15, 20, 25 minutes in that first half.
But he might be learning, because this is the thing about Højbjerg, is that you watch him play for Denmark. He plays a lot further forward, and he plays more vertical balls than he does for Spurs. With Spurs, he's been employed as an anchor. So it might be something that he's sort of incorporating into his Spurs game from his Denmark game.
I've always quite liked Højbjerg.
I like Højbjerg as well.
He's a warrior. I like him. He's someone else I think needs a vest.
Yes.
Played every game last season, every game bar in the final and in Euros. The mental fatigue he must have had with the Eriksen situation, and played pretty much every game this season as well. But one of our midfielders to your midfielder, Ben, I didn't even know Paul Pogba was playing. This is a guy who changes his hair colour every day, and now I'm a pioneer for him because he's got the same hairstyle as me. Bald, and yet
Sally pulls it off better.
Well,
no, I don't know about Pogba.
How did you think
he did better than you, Chris, but not quite as well as me?
I disagree. How did you think? How did you think he did? Because you mentioned Ragnick knows who some of the bad apples are, and he's been long rumored to be one of the bad apples in there. I tell you what about Pogba, right? Like, I get really frustrated with Pogba and the agent, like how it comes out and things come out. But I don't necessarily think Pogba's a bad dressing room guy. I don't. I might be wrong. I don't think he is. I think he's quite liked in the dressing room. I think the problem with Pogba is his agent. I hate his agent. Yes. I hate
Raiola is scum.
He is bad. It's always a leak, and it's always just before a game or before a big game, or it's never like in a 2-week international thing, or it's always at the worst possible time. And I think with Pogba, I'm really at the stage with him now where I don't care if he stays or goes. I just want it resolved. Right? If he stays, I'll be happy, because I think he's I mean, you look at what he
start of the
contributes.
season under Solskjaer, he was storming the assist chart. I mean, it helps if he gets 4 in one game, but he was storming the assist chart.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still the third. I think he's still the third, fourth best assister in the league, and he's played nowhere near the amount of games of the ones above him. There's no doubt in his quality, right? And I think the problem you've got is at United. So Pogba, he started where Bruno played against Spurs because Bruno was out, and then quickly Ragnick changed it to make it like a pivot with Matic and Fred and Pogba either side. But it's forever the same with Pogba. Play this formation to get the best of Paul Pogba. Buy this player to get the best out of Paul Pogba. Just be good. Just be consistent. But what I would say is talent-wise, he's incredibly difficult to replace. If you're talking about on the ball, but the problem with Pogba is he can be a liability going the other way. And if Pogba's playing with Paul Scholes and Roy Keane, we're fine. We'll keep the ball enough. We got enough bite. Pogba can be carried a bit. When he plays with Pirlo,
kick him up in the air if he doesn't play ball.
Yeah, when he plays with Pirlo and Mercutio in that Juventus team, he was fine. There's enough going on there, enough know-how, right?
Conte,
he doesn't have the initiative.
He's the extension piece. He's the extension piece
on his own merit. He'll sometimes have a really great performance, but a lot of it has been enabled by what's going on around him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
him controlling things.
You look at our central midfield options. We got Fred, McTominay, and Pogba. Really, Matic is sort of coming to the end, but there's no doubt Paul Pogba's the best player of those three. But if I look at the team sheet and they're playing Paul Pogba and one of the others against a better team, I think, defensively it's going to be hard work today. And that's just the way it is. But I'd love Pogba. Personally, I would like Pogba to sign, and then it's done. And we've got him.
The problem is, do you know what? If I was in your position, I would actually be the opposite. I would want Pogba to not sign because he brings Raiola with him.
I agree with the agent thing. The only thing I would say, if he signs, he's going to sign a four-year contract, right? And the problem with Pogba is this is the time for him to go on a free, right? If he wants to go. It wouldn't kill me as long as we replace him, right? But the balance issue with Pogba has always been the thing, trying to get Fernandes and Pogba in. And I think Pogba is a wonderful player, but you look at Fernandes and what he brings, like, again, talking about stats and framing it from a stats point of view. Fernandes is a machine. It's a machine type stats. Whether or not he gives the ball away incredible amounts of times, he does, by the way. But that's not the point. He gets it done. And I think, I'm a bit over Pogba, but I don't think he had a great game against Spurs. I think he does work better as an additional piece. So if you've got a focal point, he's not that. He's something, who can run. And I think most of his best games for United have actually been coming down the left, another to the left. A lot of his best games have been like that.
They all love cutting inside and shooting with their right.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it probably is that. But also as well, he's got such good feet, and he really is a danger one-on-one. I mean, I watched that Leeds game where he played against that Adam Forshaw, and he was chasing shadows, Adam Forshaw. He didn't know what was happening for 45 minutes. He was all over the shop. And I think that's what Pogba can bring. At the end of the day, though, with Pogba, I would say that if I had to say, I think the imbalance he brings to the team causes the problem. But on the flip side of it, you watch him and he has a good game, and you think, God, how do you replace that? So I don't know. To be honest, I'm one way or the other. I'd be happy it's done. If I'm honest.
How you doing, Vitch? Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, good. No, I just heard you talking about Pogba. I think it's always the player that's going to get discussed, isn't he, because of his situation.
Yeah, but we've discussed them now. Move on.
I think that's what you should do. To just say it quickly, Pogba should move on. And if you sign him for a long-term deal, then we know it's just going to be the same as it was the last 4 years. It's not going to be. He's not going to improve. He's not going to.
You'll have the agent issue again, won't you?
and he wants even more money. And I think you can probably buy someone as effective as Pogba, or maybe 2 players for Pogba's salary. For me, Pogba on his day is fantastic, but how many days of those do you get?
I do find the idea that he thinks he deserves more money hilarious.
I think it's taking the piss, to be honest. When
Yeah, but
Pogba
we
and
come back.
Maguire, two players, Pogba and Maguire, I'll just say this: if they want more money, then they should be much better at their job. Because if anything, they should be given back some of their salary, because half the time they don't turn up. And I just think
It was
with
like
Pogba, how much
Ndombele. It
does
was
he
like
want?
Ndombele for us, and Ndombele for us. It was like playing. He's not quite as bad as Ndombele, and Tanguy Ndombele for Spurs was a terrible, terrible influence. A player with all the talent in the world. I mean, so good with the ball, but his attitude sucked. You can't rely on players like that.
It's just not. Yeah, that's it. And sometimes it looks like he's not trying, which is infuriating. But I think that the problem for me is that you're going to have to tie him to a decent deal, but it's going to be so much salary that he wants, and it's just not. I just don't think it's worth it. I think you can build. Manchester United are not going to win things next year. They're probably unlikely to win things in a couple of years. So you want to look at players that are going to peak. Someone like Bellingham would be fantastic. He's quality now and in the future. Jadon Sancho was a great signing. I just think they need to move on from Pogba. And if he wants to go to Real Madrid or PSG, let him go there. I think Manchester United need to move past Pogba. I think it just will stifle the team.
Would fit him down to the ground because it's just a group of individuals.
Exactly. And they can all sit there. They can all get paid a fortune and not win the Champions League, and that's fine.
And of course, you can look good in the French league, can't you? You're going to get lots of time on the ball. I mean, he'd be quite happy to play alongside Verratti, who controls the game.
I thought it was he used to remind me a bit like Varane, because we watched Manchester United recently. We played a bit quicker, but Pogba looks quite slow compared with sort of Fred and other people pinging passes around. I think Pogba is probably the best passer in Manchester United's team or the squad, but I think he's a bit off the pace.
Anyway, on to Tottenham.
Simply Ace wants him at Spurs because Pogba at his worst is better than Winks at his best.
Ace.
He's also said this as
well. My grandfather is better than Winks, and he's been dead for 60 years.
I've got a question for Tottenham fans, because
he's also
watching the
game,
game,
a bit of a laugh.
What was up with Son? He couldn't stay on his feet a couple of times.
We
had a promising break, and I was looking at it thinking, you're through. You're in here. Son had the ball, breaking clear, just fell over twice, 3 times.
He's obviously got the wrong boots on, which I don't understand, because the football pitches aren't like it's not like playing like beach football 1 week and then on like carpet the next week. So
either that, or your groundskeeper got drunk and overwatered the pitch.
But only affected Son though.
Yeah. But
he definitely he's dainty. He's dainty.
He was playing.
Either way, it helped us out.
Yeah. And Simply Ace has also said, going back to Kulusevski, what I love about him is he plays without fear and has the quality to back it up.
He's got nothing to be frightened of because he knows what is his opposite number's going to be doing before he does it.
Yeah.
He knows it. It's almost telepathic. That's what I've noticed about his game. Watch him. He the number of times that he he dummies or nutmegs or basically outthinks his opposite number, whoever's marking him at the time. It's almost everything he does. It's like, I know what you're going to do, and so I'm going to do something else that you're not expecting.
Yeah, but no one can read Wan-Bissaka either, because even Wan-Bissaka don't know what he's going to do.
Not even Maguire and Varane know where Wan-Bissaka's going to be.
With Wan-Bissaka, it's not deliberate.
Yeah. He's out of the Paolo One-Chop school, I think.
I think with Kulusevski as well, he looks like he's played with Son and Kane for years as well. So we've got a real good partnership there.
Yeah, he's a good player.
If we get a creative midfielder in, we could have something really special there. And
it's the Sheringham effect. It's the Sheringham effect. Why is it that every strike partner who played alongside Sheringham scored hatfuls of goals? Right? Chris Armstrong, had a 20+ goal season because he played alongside Teddy Sheringham. What more do you need to know about Sheringham? Right? And Kulusevski is in that mold. He's a player that plays the game a couple of steps ahead of everyone else, right? He's got that brain to him. And that's, again, going back to what Ace said, that's why he's not frightened, because he already knows what's going to happen. Yeah. He's ahead of his opposition. This guy is going to be very, very good.
Yeah. I mean, if we could get a playmaker in, I mean, not saying we should have bought him back, but Eriksen's ball for Tony for the first goal, like, just striker's dream. That absolute
What?
striker's dream. But yeah,
I'm terrified. I'm terrified for Eriksen. I really am. I just hope to God that there's everyone's saying there is no danger, and I hope that's the case. But I'm still, when I watched Brentford this weekend, it was like, oh my God, there was the tension every time he was running around.
Did you see the Brandon Williams thing with Eriksen?
No.
Yeah.
It looked like he was punching, and he realised
Brandon Williams is
Eriksen.
a spiky little bloke, and he sort of, they got in a tangle, and he went down, and Brandon Williams sort of got up ready to sort of like do him, and then realised it was Eriksen. Gave him a hug. Gave him a hug because he wasn't. He's got that thing about him now. No one's gonna want to be angry at Eriksen. So.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
But he's on a pay as you play contract, isn't he, at the moment? So there's the possibility of someone signing him.
If he is okay, which I really hope, brilliant signing for Brentford.
Really good. Man.
Yeah, before we go, we'll move on to talk about the top four. Only two of us need to talk about that. But before we do talk about that, just thoughts on Chelsea's situation. Obviously, the situation would be far, far better if there was no situation, because that would mean nothing would be happening in Ukraine. But I mean, there's talk that in 81 days they'd go bankrupt. They're not allowed to sell tickets now. Only season tickets can go. If it goes on over the summer, there's no season tickets. Not allowed to sell anyone, buy anyone, loan anyone. And Abramovich isn't allowed to sell it, and no one's allowed to buy it. I think money will talk in the end, so they'll do some deal.
It's probably going to be fine, isn't it? Because the thing is, they can't buy or sell anybody, but they couldn't do that now anyway until the end of the season, and they could could sell it in. I think they could make a sale in a month to 6 weeks, and apparently there's about 20 people interested. There's going to be so much interest in that, and I don't think it'll be a problem. I think it might be a problem in the future unless they get someone like Abramovich that's prepared to put a huge amount of money into the club, because it's not self-sustaining.
Yeah.
You've got $1.5 billion debt.
I think they'll be allowed to sell it, not buy it, but obviously no money will be able to go to.
He doesn't get the money,
but the money that would go to him goes to the Premier League, goes to grassroots, goes to the NHS or something like that. I think someone will be allowed to buy it. And
from what I understand, the sale will be facilitated by the UK government, if I've read that correctly. I'm not.
Another test and trace then coming.
But it would probably, I think, in that scenario, I don't know. Again, it's a bit of speculation. I think in that scenario, what the government does would then essentially be the broker in that scenario, rather than being directly involved, because it is ultimately, in the letter of the law, it is a private thing. So I don't know. Obviously, the government can bring forth legislation if it needs to sort of enable it to do stuff, but I don't think it would want to. That's just speculation. I think it would just be a case of, we're going to broker this deal, we're going to find a buyer, and then there will be some discussion and consultation over the proceeds. It might just be that the proceeds will go back into the club, to be honest. So let's say, for instance, they're valued at, say, 3 billion. The buyer spends 3 billion, but then that, because of the debt obligations that Chelsea have, it might just go to sort of pay their creditors potentially. Possibly.
I think the debt was Abramovich, wasn't it? Wasn't it like a loan?
Yeah, but it's not just Abramovich that they owe money to. It's like any operation; they will always owe money to other people. And with the fact that I think their wage bill is something like £28 million a week, they're probably going to be racking up a lot of owed wages, for instance. So it'll be a case of, right, that's the profit from the sale. Let's get all the creditors other than Abramovich paid off, and then if there's any left over, I think they'll do something.
It does show that the Premier League maybe need to look at who buys into the Premier League and not just accept any billionaire, because I think Chelsea aside, there's a few other clubs that could be in the same sort of situation.
They won't though, will they? Because the Premier League get a load of money from it. And the whole Newcastle thing makes me laugh, because the Premier League allowed essentially a company to take over one of their companies who kill homosexuals in their country, yet the Premier League will always band around the LGBT community and the
Manchester City as well. They got the thing is
So this is the thing, right? This is what pisses me off. Again, it shows the Sky billionaire access, right? Sky love these billionaires, by the way, right? Because what Sky would love to see would be for all football to basically be that spectacle thing like they have in the United States, a closed shop cartel, right? No promotion, no relegation, none of that. It's just the same thing being churned over and over again. So they love the ESL-esque ones, the ones that were happy to go for the ESL, which include Manchester City, Spurs, Man United, and those big billionaire owners, right? Daniel Levy is also a billionaire, just so you're aware. Okay. He is. He owns 30%.
I'm not laughing that he's not. I'm laughing that he's probably spent about £1.50. So
yeah, exactly. But this is the thing. When they think of him, they don't think he's of him as a billionaire, but he actually is, right? He actually is a billionaire if you look at his net wealth, because he owns 30% of ENIC, who own a £3.5 billion asset according to their own valuation. So his stock in that makes him a billionaire, right? A lot of Spurs fans don't register that about him. So he's a billionaire like Joe Lewis is. Anyway, off the point. The issue with the sort of ownership that the Premier League wants is that they don't care about competition. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about football clubs being community assets. They view it purely in terms of business. They are private businesses and they can run it according to free market principles as much as they like. That's their view of it. So they're not going to give a shit about their owners and things. It's just about the tick box. As long as they can turn around and say, no, we have followed the process, that's all they care about, because that gives them, the out. They don't give a shit about human rights. They don't give a shit about morals. And this whole thing, like the one that pisses me off, is the taking of the knee, right? Do we honestly believe that any of these individuals actually, or the vast majority, actually give fuck number one about racism? They live in a closeted, pampered existence where they are paid ridiculous amounts of money, where they are paid more money in a week than most people earn in a year. Do we honestly believe that they give a fuck?
You talking about the players or
all of them? Players.
I think the players
do. I think.
I think people like Rashford does, for example.
Again, one or two exceptions, but I said the vast majority. I didn't say all. The vast majority, they don't care. Because their existence is so marketed. It's all about marketing and endorsements and product placement, all of the things that we expect from a corporate existence. For them, it's also a tick box. They don't none of them have sat down and had an actual philosophical thought about racism, about why it's wrong. It's just parroting what they're told to do by their agents or by their clubs. They don't care either. If it costs them money, the clubs would be saying to their players, don't take the knee. Right? How about this? How about a take the knee tax? For every time that their players take the knee, they've got to donate £1 million or £100,000 to an anti-racism charity. Believe me, if that tax was in place, bending the knee or taking the knee would disappear overnight. They don't give a fuck. It's tokenism, and that's what pisses me off, right? So we've got this taking of the knee, and yet we allow the Saudis to come in. We allow the fucking Emiratis to come in. The Emiratis are one of the most racist regimes on the planet. 15% of the population of the United Arab Emirates are actually Emirati. 85% of them are foreigners, and they treat them like slaves. You're telling me that's not racist? Right?
Let's move on from all of this. Mitch, I know you've got to head off soon to do your own stream.
Let's go for one question.
Sorry, guys. I wasn't angry about you. Right. I was angry about the situation. Sorry, not at you.
But Mitch, we'll move on to top four. For me, it's between these two teams, United and Arsenal. We're out of it because we're too inconsistent. A couple of questions for you before you head off. What were your thoughts of the game? I imagine your main answer is going to be about one player beginning with R. And is that a big game for you? Is that a kind of a stop the rot game, especially after the Manchester City game? And what do you think of thoughts?
I think if we got any chance of finishing top four, then we had to win that game. Just because I think if Tottenham win their games in hand, they go above us. And we've drawn quite a few games recently, and Arsenal are consistent at the moment, so they've got a strong position for top four. I think if we didn't win against Tottenham, I'd definitely say I'd write it off. To me, if you look at the fixtures left, Arsenal got to play Liverpool. We've got to play Liverpool as well, both next month, I think. And Arsenal need to slip up for us to get top four. Let's be honest, they're a massive favourite now. They've got 3 games in hand. They've got no European fixtures, which is a big plus over the season.
gone forward.
So I'll be really surprised if Arsenal don't hang on. Because one thing you would say about Arsenal, that they've suffered badly when they've played Man City at Liverpool. They've had heavy defeats against those two teams, but they've been quite consistent in beating teams in the bottom half of the table. They've been putting Norwich away, putting Leeds, and quite convincingly, like 4 or 5-0 wins against those teams.
Yeah.
So they've done what they need to do. They've won the games they should win. They haven't beaten Man City or Liverpool, which you don't expect that, because Man City and Liverpool are way ahead of the rest of the league.
And that's only 12 points, really, if you think about it. Let's say they lose both games
That's
against both.
we're losing those games as well, so it doesn't make any difference. But they're winning. they're doing what they need to do, aren't they? They're beating Norwich, beating Leeds, beating Everton. Actually lost to Everton, but they're beating most of the teams in the bottom half, and we're drawing some of those games. And fair play, Arsenal probably, on balance at the moment, deserve top 4. I'm a bit surprised if they do get top 4 based on last season, but
they've
can't really
got
argue.
rearranged games as well, which haven't been rearranged yet against Chelsea and us, which are obviously big games. But
and they're
big games, aren't
and
they? But they can probably lose 2 and still be above us. That's the problem.
I think Arsenal need to lose 4 games. I mean that's what we're talking about. You're probably talking they need to lose 4 games and maybe draw a couple for anyone else.
If we beat Atletico Madrid tomorrow night, then we've got another couple of difficult games in Europe. No matter who we draw, it's going to be 2 difficult games, and I think I just don't think we'll get top 4. I think it's unless Arsenal implode, which I don't see because they've gradually got better over the season, they're getting top 4.
What
certainly has to happen is they would need to lose to Chelsea, Liverpool, United, and Spurs. I think for them, because they have to lose ground.
We'd have to pretty much. If we got knocked out by Atletico and just went on a crazy run in the Premier League, which we've not done for several years, then maybe we get top 4. But
I don't know. We've been on some crazy runs, just not winning once.
You beat Man City, though. How did you beat Man City and then lose?
They attack us. Teams sit back. We can't play. Teams attack us. We can pick them up.
Yeah, but Man United attacked us.
Yeah. Well,
we had Ronaldo though.
Sorry.
No strikers.
We need teams to attack us and our players to wear football boots and not like ice skates
and not have Ronaldo.
We'll win. But what's your priority now? Do you think top 4, Champions League? I mean, winning the Champions League is more.
It's the only thing you can win. I don't know. Top 4 is something that equal priority, I suppose. I'd like to see us do well in the Champions League if I could pick one. I think.
As was shown on Saturday, if you have Ronaldo, a fit Ronaldo, an angry, focused Ronaldo, you've got goals there. But
I'll tell you who's going to have to play out of their skin if we are able to get anywhere in the Champions League is De Gea. You can think Ronaldo at the other end is one thing.
Performances every game, isn't he?
Listen,
one thing at the other end, right? Is Ronaldo.
If you come up against, let's say, say Benzema. Benzema against PSG, your defense will not be able to handle that.
Harry Maguire's pocket, mate.
It's not possible. Man United,
I don't think I'm the slowest defender I can remember playing for us since Warren Blanc. But it's going to help.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Modric can still turn it on against PSG, he can turn it on against Man United.
I think the weird thing about United in the Champions League is we have that ability. I think we have done well in the Champions League this year in terms of like finding a way. I don't know, and maybe something could play into the psyche like that. But I mean, to legitimately think, I mean, I'm not even convinced we're going to beat Atletico. And
the first leg against Atletico, we were so poor in the first half, so awful. I think Atletico must be kicking themselves that you haven't got a 3-1 win from that game, because I watched that game and think we got a 1-1. We almost won it in the last 5 minutes. We could have won it. And I was just thinking, how have we, everything that could go right, like they hit the crossbar, hit the post. They were all over us. We were awful. And it was 1-0.
You ended up winning the Champions League like that. Didn't Bayern Munich hit the poster twice? Or
they hit the crossbar, didn't they? I think we got lucky with that one, but we did have our 2 best midfielders missing that day. So I think we deserved a little bit of luck.
But with Ronaldo, you never know. With Ronaldo, you never know. And but I mean,
we better head off. But cheers, guys.
Just quickly, your channel for people who don't know, it will be in the description.
Yeah, Rich Sports is generally Manchester United content, but I do some Premier League content as well, and a few other things, a few different podcasts sometimes throughout the year to sort of review Premier League games, fixtures, how teams are doing. So a bit of a mix, mainly Manchester United biased, where I put out our propaganda. But at the moment, we've been just pretty much damage limitation for our season expectations.
The Manchester Stasi, fantastic.
It's essentially a Manchester United version of this podcast because we've done damage limitation.
Yeah, probably on a Monday night. Usually we like review the Premier League action for the last sort of week, but I'm doing Atletico Madrid preview in about 5 minutes. I better head off. But cheers, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much for coming on. Ben, top four. Are you of itch there that it's Arsenal's to lose, or do you think that's a big result for you to
like
give
I
you maybe some momentum, or do you think someone else will get it?
Like I say, I think there's a lot of football still to be played. I think United, we're obviously outsiders now. That's clear. You can just look at the table. But I think if Arsenal, for example, were to, like I say, to win any of those four, I mean, even if they, maybe lost 3 and drew 1, there's an opening there. But it's more than that. Is I don't see United putting like 7 wins together. Do you know what I mean? So even if, I'm just trying to do the maths now, but like, even if United won every game to the end of the season now, which isn't going to happen, I think that puts us on 77 points. Right? Arsenal could afford to pretty much, I think I'm right in saying, lose 4 games. So I mean, I don't know. That seems a bit hopeful. I think.
What I would say about the top 4, with history has shown you, is that nobody wants 4th. Teams lose all sorts of games towards the last 10 games of the season. Yeah. But we're obviously in the conversation in terms of mathematically, but consistently, I don't think we've got a hope. Consistency is just all over the place. I think Eugene put something on one of the Spurs chats, like we won a game, lost a game, won a game, lost a game, won a game, lost a game. It's literally like a roller coaster. You can't achieve anything like that apart from escaping relegation. If you're winning a game and losing a game, you need, and Brian said it on here on Friday, we need like a run of 4 games, Everton, and then another 4 games, and we've fallen to that first hurdle, albeit playing quite well, and a little bit unlucky getting one of the best players ever on form. But we needed to win that game. We had enough to win that game, where Ronaldo, to win the game, would have needed to score 5 goals.
I said after the Everton game, I said I was on We Are Tottenham TV, and Ben asked me whether or not we'd get top 4. I've been saying since the transfer window, we're not getting top 4, and I've not moved from that. After that game against Everton, I said everything depends on Man United. I said if we win that game, then we're in with a shout. If we don't, if we lose, I said, we're out. And we're out. It's just, it's far too far to go, right? Right now, my hopes for the season will be to finish above Wolves and West Ham. Okay? If we finish above them, that's like, okay, fine. We're not going to get top 4. Arsenal are not going to drop the 9 points that they need to drop for us to even be with a shout against them, because they are 6 points ahead with 3 games in hand. Yeah. Man United, maybe, possibly, because they're only a point behind. We're 2 wins behind, and there's only 9 games left, right? Come on.
The only thing I would say, just looking at the fixtures, Arsenal's fixtures, okay, I know you've got to play Arsenal, right? So, I mean,
I guarantee you, I think Brian said it as well, Sky are waiting to sort that out, along with the Chelsea one, because can you imagine if it's things change and it's Arsenal versus Tottenham for 4th in the league last day of the season? That's what they're hoping for. Ain't gonna happen, because like you said, Vez, they're too far ahead and need to drop a load of points, and there's too many other.
You can't disrespect West Ham either, can you? They're doing really well, and I think you look at
and West Ham will be buoyed as well, weren't they, from last season, where they just narrowly missed out because they got two real bad injuries, Antonio and Rice, right at the crucial.
All I would say is, like, just going through your guys' fixtures, right? I'm just looking at them. Brighton, all right, they're a good team, but I think they're on the beach, right? Their results have really dropped off last few 4 weeks.
West Ham. They could be on another continent and we'd have a trouble.
Traditionally, we don't do well at the Amex.
Okay, fair enough.
unfortunately.
But
That's the
then you've got West Ham. It's a big game. Not saying it's not a big game, but you know,
I mean,
Newcastle.
that's at home, isn't it? Which
Yeah.
we should
On
be
Sunday.
at.
Newcastle
They'll attack us as well, which helps.
Newcastle, who are going to be safe, right? Like, I'm not saying they won't play well, but you know they're safe. Villa mid-table away won't be an easy one, but you know again middle.
Us.
Brighton again, so you got Brighton twice.
Do we?
Brighton on the 16th of March, it says here.
Oh, that must have been one of the rearranged ones.
And then on the 8th of April, Brentford away. I think Brentford will probably be safe by then. You know, they're not playing well. Leicester are all over the shop at the moment, right? Liverpool, obviously, probably mark yourself down as a naught for that one.
Well, the thing is, I think we could get something at Anfield. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but
it does. Yeah.
Like Man City, they'll attack us, and if Klopp plays in those tactics, like he left two central defenders with Alexander-Arnold and Robertson checking on the corner flags up the other end, I can see us getting to, and we should have beaten Liverpool at home. We had the chances to do it. Poor finishing cost us there again. But then on the other hand, like you say, Ben, we could have poor finishing. We could be on the end of a 5-0.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, I know things aren't won on paper, but you will be the favourite for every one of those games, but Liverpool, right? And maybe the Arsenal game, right? You would be, right? I'm not. You know, Brighton twice, West Ham, Newcastle, Villa.
If
Brentford.
we hadn't over the last few years turned into a banter club, yeah.
No. I agree. It's not one on paper. I'm just saying your fixtures aren't the worst. You haven't got like all the top six, you know, or
we don't get off with the Man Cities every week because they attack us. So we'll have teams who sit back against us and who are on holiday. Well, maybe teams who are on the beach will be all right because they won't track us down and close us down.
I mean,
we need teams to attack us to allow that space there for Kane to drop deep, players to run beyond him.
Arsenal's fixtures: away to Chelsea, away to you, home to Liverpool, away to Villa, away to Palace, who have drawn 0-0 with City tonight.
Yeah,
have they?
Right.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Brighton a pretty easy one. Southampton, I'd expect them to win. United away to West Ham.
Yeah.
Leeds, easy one. Newcastle, fairly easy. And then Everton on the last day of the season, who might need to win to stay up.
Yeah,
I don't know. You know,
I just think with Tottenham, it doesn't really matter. I think we're so inconsistent. It doesn't really matter. We could have 5-6 games in hand. We're so inconsistent. I wouldn't say with confidence that we'll get many wins.
What will happen is that Arsenal will probably drop a few points, and it will get to the point where it's like, oh, Spurs can leapfrog them, and in classic Spurs fashion, we will utterly fail to do so.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. It's written in the stars, right?
And big love to Bob Spur here, who's put in the comment, how are you doing, Bob? What a game coming up. And Ben, unfortunately, beat you to this slightly. Liverpool v City, although it's the other way around. He's said City, Liverpool, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
City dropping points tonight has made the top very interesting. Big up.
Yep.
What I would say, and Ben will know this, we did a preview at the start of the season. I got laughed at for saying Liverpool would win the league this year. Just saying, but you know, the only thing I've got right, I'm bottom at fantasy football, but I may have Liverpool winning the league right. But I didn't.
I also must say on the mid-season review of it, you went, yeah, I was well off the mark.
Well, that can be edited. That can be edited out. That's fine.
Liverpool are playing the Scum the next game. So if they win that, they're 1 point behind.
Yeah. I mean, what you want if you're chasing top four is you want to be playing teams who are on holiday, really, or for us, who are going to attack us, and you want other teams to play relegation teams because they're fighting for their lives and they need the points and they will scrap, they will put a fight in. But like I said, we could have 6 games in hand. We're just too inconsistent. I can't see us clawing points up if we're 6 games in hand. So
I just want to.
While it's mathematically possible,
I just don't want to finish below West Ham and Wolves.
No,
I really don't. That would just.
But I'd like to see him give like people like Scarlett a chance now. I mean, he won't. While it's mathematically possible to get 4th, he won't. If it becomes mathematically impossible to get 4th, then he might. But you know,
I don't even
set yourself up for next season. Like, find out exactly what you need. You've got youngsters there who you don't know if they're ready or not. Give them a couple of games to see what they're made of.
Obviously,
if we're in your position, Ben, where top 4 is much more realistic for you than it is for us, I'd say, then you wouldn't be doing that. You'd be playing your top team every week. But yeah,
I think we're all in agreement. I think Arsenal are the favourites. I just think it really just depends. I think those 4 games that Arsenal, all these games in hand, they mean nothing if they lose them all. So it's points on the board is points on the board. Games in hand is games in hand. So I think if Arsenal do it, I say the league doesn't lie. If you finish fourth, you deserve to be fourth. But I just think those 4 games they've got. I mean, against yourself, it's North London derby. Anything can happen,
and
right?
Chelsea, a London derby, West
and
Ham,
I think
the same.
if United go to Arsenal, knowing that if we win, we have a really good chance of top 4. United are that type of team. I think will put in a performance. I really do. I like when it comes to it, we seem to find just enough often. And I think if we're miles off, then I think we'll go there and we'll put a bad attitude in. So I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting to see those games. I don't know the order of the games that are going to be played, or how many points Arsenal can rack up before they play those games in hands. But there's some tough games. I mean, Chelsea, United, and Liverpool don't get tougher really.
No, yeah, it will be interesting. Like I say, history shows you that no one wants that 4th place because teams drop points all over the place who are going for that 4th. But I think it's between you 2 guys, personally.
Yeah, I think so too.
But, yeah, we pretty much reached the end now. There's not much to talk about other than going over the terrible defending of Ronaldo again, which don't really want to talk about Ronaldo.
Just one thing quickly on the Chelsea thing. I didn't say anything, but just one thing on the Chelsea thing. I don't think anyone. I mean, I've got family who are Chelsea fans, and I don't think anyone, like whether it's Bury, Chelsea, whoever, wants a team to go out of existence. I mean, no one wants that, right? No one wants that. So, but what I would say is, I think, like you guys have all said, if this doesn't prompt a review of who we allow to be owners of these clubs, right? Then football. I mean, you could argue football is gone, from the Premier League era. Money's come into it, but football then really has gone. I really believe that. I believe that, you cannot let football clubs have to go through this. And I hear some of their fans going, "It's nothing to do with us. It's nothing to do with us. Why is politics in football?" Well, we've allowed politics in football. We've allowed those owners who are politics led, right? And the same with the Saudis, and the same with City's owners. That they are politicians first. They own a club, right? That's
they own
not
the club,
how
they own the club for political purposes.
Yeah, sports washing. It's I mean, it's exactly that. And we
even Abramovich, just to interject, Ben. Yeah. But Abramovich also did it for sports washing as well. Bear in mind, and to also try and protect his assets because of the whole history that he had with the Yeltsin Putin thing as well.
Yeah, he wanted to be present, didn't he? More visible as well. I saw. Yeah, so look, I don't want Chelsea to go out of business, and I really don't. People always say, like, when like a Newcastle comes along, oh, you're just worried because they're going to take your spot. That really isn't it. I'm used to United not winning leagues now. I've become accustomed now, right?
You can't really come on a Spurs stream and then talk about how you're used to not winning leagues when you've had about 19 in your life.
But listen, all I'm saying is, right, it's an easy out for these clubs to say, oh, you're just worried about your football. That's not it.
No.
Right?
I'll say this, so to interject again, I'll say this. If an oil sheikdom took over Spurs, I would abandon my support of the club. Yeah. I could not support a club like that. So it's not, as you say, Ben, it's not.
I agree. I'm not sure I would abandon it, but I definitely wouldn't have the comfortable feeling of being a fan of that club anymore.
I couldn't do it.
I think it might be a little bit ingrained in me to still watch the game. I don't know. I don't know if I could ever really not, but I do think, this sort of, you can just buy a tribe by buying a football club now, and all this like whataboutery that goes on, and I just get fed up of it, and I struggle to let it go when I talk to people about it. It really annoys me. So but yeah, I think there's a difference between having Chelsea go out of business. I don't think will happen, but and just this idea that fans don't want Chelsea to do well because if Jeff Bezos buys you, good luck to you. If he pumps money in, good luck to you.
I don't know. I disagree on that point in terms of thing. I think I have an issue with billionaires buying clubs because it ruins competition overall, right? I said it on Thursday on my primary stream, or the stream that I'm on primarily. I said, what's the point of the other 17 teams? Let's say Chelsea was still under Abramovich's ownership and nothing had changed on that score. What's the point of the other 17 teams?
All I would say to that is,
if they're going to if they're going to just buy titles, what's the point of them?
Yeah, all I would say to that is I maybe would think myself a little hypocritical if I said that, because I think there's always going to be a richest team, and United for a long time have spent lots of money. I don't really mind.
I would argue
we make the money. Because
I would argue if you've made the money, I agree. If you've made the money, that's fine. It's not that is something that's legitimate, right? Earning your own money, and I've said that before, and I've said it about Arsenal, right, as well. They've made their money. Arsenal have not been bankrolled by anyone, right? But the point is this: is that because of what's happened with Man City, with Chelsea, and what will happen, I guarantee you, with Newcastle, is what Jack Walker started with Blackburn, but in a very small scale way, in that he warped not the competition necessarily on the field, but competition when it comes to the resources that a football club uses. What Abramovich did is that he did what Jack Walker did to such a degree that probably he is most responsible for the ridiculous prices that we see for players now, even though Chelsea themselves aren't any of the record holders. But what they did was basically prompt the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona to up their game, which then led to the PSGs doing it as well when they had their things. And then the Man Cities, again, Man City have never, other than this season with 100 million, that was the biggest price I think they paid ever under the Al Nahyans. But the point is that when you allow that bank rolling, what you do is that you get this heated up market that basically warps competition. And if you read the fan-led review, one of the things it talked about was about clubs desperately trying to compete against that and taking ridiculous risks.
I do get that, but that's kind of what Leeds did to compete, wasn't it? Leeds did that.
No. Leeds was a different situation, and I'm sensitive to Leeds because one thing that you hear from a lot of Spurs fans who are supportive of the current hierarchy is they say, "Oh, we don't want to do with Leeds," and it's like it was a completely different scenario then. It wasn't enormous finance.
No.
Right now, the top 6 clubs are so insulated from that it would take financial mismanagement of epic proportions for any of those 6 to do a Leeds, right? The others are very vulnerable to it. When Leicester, for instance, the last time we have figures, they spent 108% of their turnover, as in more than they made on wages. That's the sort of thing that is a problem.
Because United are quite low on that generally, the old percentage of turnover, because we make. But I'm not overly against. I think you're always going to have clubs that are owned by things. I don't know how you regulate like to someone like a Watford, the money Spurs has, I guess it might be nuts. I don't know, or even a lower league, Rotherham or something. It's all relative, I guess. I don't mind that. I just hate the politics. I hate that, you've got people who are shelling, buses of kids on a Wednesday and turning up at a game on the Sunday. You know, I can't square that. So for me, that's what I hope comes out of this. If anything, is just that there's a line that comes from it from politics.
But every listen, no billionaire becomes a billionaire through 100% clean activities.
No,
right?
I get that. They
So
should
Joe
hold
Lewis,
a position in the government.
our ultimate owner, Joe Lewis, there are serious questions asked about him about what he's doing in Patagonia, right? Where he's alleged to have forced people off their land so that he can build a resort out there. You know, the point is this. Listen, if you've got a billionaire owner, fine. But that billionaire owner should be doing what is best for football, not just for his club. So what you do is limit spending. And you do it according to how well a club does. So if a club wins the league one season, you say, fine, we're going to limit your spending to nothing the next season. You can't buy any players. You've got to do it again. You've got to show
the NFL model with the draft, so to speak.
Sort of. A lot of people have drawn that comparison. It's not the same, because what you're not limiting the players that they can buy, just their spending. You can spend it however you like. Let's say you finish second and you're allowed to spend 20 million the season after. However you like. You can spend £0, you can spend £2.50, you can spend 20 million, you can buy 20 players, you can buy one player, you can buy whatever you want, but that's the limit, right? That's financial fair play properly implemented. And that's easy enough to do. And you don't even need necessarily agreement with other leagues to do that. You just limit it to your own league.
I don't know about that.
Do what you want.
I don't know how I'd feel about it. I don't know.
You only feel uncomfortable. You only feel uncomfortable because you're not used to that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think there is something about it. I feel like maybe. I don't know. I just want to make sure that, like my father-in-law is a Chelsea season ticket holder. Goes every week, and he would be absolutely devastated if Chelsea went. It's part of his fabric of his. Yeah,
my boss is a Chelsea fan. He's the same.
Yeah. And so the idea that it's just we want fans want Chelsea to go out of business because they're a threat on the pitch. That's not it. And I hope that Chelsea fans get that, because that's not what this is. And I hope, but that's just my point of view on it. I think that if it doesn't get that the Premier League and FA to could seriously consider who can own a football club. Forget about what rules are after that, but just physically the owners, and that should be reviewed on a biannual basis. So you can't buy a football club and then nip off the war.
Why biennial? Every year.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you've got to
re-register their players every season. Re-register the owners.
Yeah, re-register the owner. Yeah, whatever way. I think that's what I would do. But anyway, I hope something does get sorted out as Chelsea. I just hope they're not as successful on the pitch, but not because of the money.
Absolutely. I don't know. It's the same. I don't want Chelsea to do well, but I don't want Arsenal to do well, but I don't necessarily want them to go out of business.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting what happens with Chelsea and this whole situation, which is just an absolute mess and just tragic situation.
I don't have any confidence that the football authorities will do anything except bend over and spread their cheeks like they have been for the last.
I would imagine these owners come in and then promise the Premier League, FA, X million, X billion, and then they get little backhanders and stuff like that. I would imagine they get a lot of money throughout these massive owners, and that's why they don't really care where they got their money from. That's what I think. But we pretty much reached the end. We talked about the game and all sorts. We could go on about Chelsea for ages, because no one knows what's going to happen or what impact's going to happen. But thanks to Rich as well, who's on a little bit earlier as well, talking about United. And Rez, thanks as always.
Pleasure.
Shelfside Spurs. Tell people a little bit about a little bit about that. I'll put my teeth.
So Shelfside Spurs. So on YouTube, go on to YouTube, type in Shelfside Spurs Show, right? Click on the top link, and Shelfside is 2 words. Go on there, like and subscribe, watch the videos, and then question your existence afterwards. Because we go all over the place. If you like really esoteric, random stuff. We talk about football as well. We talk about Spurs. But really it's a madhouse. Okay, we have, as I said, we've had a couple of sort of very, very lovely guests on. We've had Mickey Hazard maybe about 6-7 weeks ago. We had Steve Perryman on week before last, which was also great. I mean, seriously, the guy told us so many wonderful stories about the Bill Nicholson era, which is great, absolutely great. And it was so much fun to have him on. And then we did another hour and 40 minutes after Steve had gone of just random shit. So yeah, if you enjoy that sort of thing, do come along, because we would love to have you watching. We'd love a like, we'd love a subscribe. Thursdays 7:30. Enjoy.
Excellent. It will be in the description along with Rich's as well. And Ben, thanks so much for coming on. No channel for you to talk about, but
no, nothing to promote. Nothing to promote me.
Can you promote ours? I get as well, so I can get like a double plug-in.
yeah, go for it. Yeah. Nothing to promote for me, guys. Thanks for having us, Chris.
No problem. Welcome anytime, along with Rich as well. And thanks for everyone adding the comments in, watching as well. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. We're on 194. It'd be great to get to 200. We'll be back on Friday. When are we playing Brighton? Is that on? That must
Wednesday.
Be on Sunday. Oh, right, okay. So that'll be
Brighton Wednesday, West Ham Sunday.
I'm going to West Ham.
Do you want to meet at the Beehive again?
Yeah. I'll text you on Sundays. Yeah, Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday.
Yeah. So Friday will be a Brighton review, West Ham preview, and then Monday will probably be an upsetting stream again. No, it won't be. We'll beat West Ham.
Love your optimism.
It's at home.
Your optimism.
That's what Tottenham have done to me. I'm the most optimistic.
I know.
Yeah, they've dragged me down. But yeah, cheers to Rez, cheers to Ben, cheers to Rich, and cheers to everybody for watching. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, then go into the description, go to Shelfside Spurs, and Rich Sports do the same there. Be back on Friday. Until then, come on, you Spurs. Thank you so much for watching. For everybody who participated in the live chat and added comments. Before you go, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Anybody who couldn't watch the live video, you can still catch us on YouTube. Add any comments, suggestions or questions to the comments section on the video. Anybody who's listened to the audio-only podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anybody who wants the audio-only podcast, you get this wherever you get your podcast from. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter, @Talk Tottenham, you'll find all the information there. We'll be back soon. We're live Mondays, 8 p.m, Fridays, 12:30 UK time. Until then, come on, you Spurs!